second to get your mics going. Do you just want to give that a test?
Hello.
Alright, that seems like it is working. Yo, come one, come all, nothing but love, nothing but respect. You know what we do, what we don't, what we is, what we isn't. And what we is here today, bring you guys and girls on Peace Chapter 1082 live discussion. I've got with me today Eggs for Brekkie and Kuma. Say hello, lads.
Hello, lads.
Hello.
Um, and this was both an amazingly good chapter, but also a very quick chapter. It felt like there was like 3 scenes in the chapter, and it was over in the blink of an eye. Had a lot of importance to it, but it still felt like it was over in the blink of an eye. Am I right?
I think it's just because with how much Oda's been steamrolling as of late, we're just hungry reading. You know what I mean?
Mm,
That's the thing because we haven't had this many quote unquote lore bombs or really like intense confrontations for a good while. These are confrontations anticipated since like
the
post
beginning.
like yeah, since the beginning, like since the first time Aokiji was actually like completely introduced. We've been waiting for him to actually like show some moves. Heck, even Garp, we finally got a named attack, but Garp
Two.
gave a named attack like after like more than 500 chapters.
Mm. Well, actually, technically, it's not Garv's first named attack, and I actually stumbled across this on accident in our TikTok. If you, not TikTok, in our Discord. If you scroll back a bit, I did like an analysis because I was going through because based on another conversation between me and Eggs, I've been going through and getting a record of every canon appearance of an admiral in the story. And so while I was going
Okay.
through getting the stuff for our Kiji, I came across the fact that in Water 7, he's got media, he's got his media fist, which is where he throws the cannonballs, which follows the same naming scheme as all of his attacks, having like a celestial vibe about them.
Kind of cutting out, Jade.
Oh, am I?
Yeah,
I don't know
just
if
a
it's
little
just
bit.
me.
Sorry. So yeah, like he Garp having like celestial based attacks. So he's got his meteor fist, which is where he throws cannonballs like a meteor shower. Which also includes his meteor fist shower, where he throws multiple at once. Then you've got his galaxy impact or galaxy fist, and his blue hole, which are all sort of like based on celestial based attacks. So you've got like a meteor shower, a galaxy, and a black hole sort of vibe.
Mm.
So
Okay.
he's he now canonically has at least 3 named attacks, which is more than like 90% of the top tiers in the verse, unfortunately. All right, let's get into it. Let's get into the beginning of this chapter and the first mistake. So, my heart bloody broke finding Vice Admiral T-Bone, who was adored by civilians and Marines alike, was murdered. Um, First things first, he, I think, is genuinely, for the longest, he's been my favorite ideal Marine in the sense that I think he's like actually genuinely the most like kind-hearted Marine in the entire Marines
Yeah.
organization. And I have not talked about him a lot because he was such an obscure character, but I was not expecting him to be killed off. And that kind of makes me feel really done dirty with it, especially since the manner in which he's killed off, it is heavily implied that he actually let them kill him because his motto in the Navy is 100 good deeds a day, and he's even talked about in his introduction in the Sea Train at Water 7, specifically saying, right, I would die for the needs of any civilian, and he's literally the shirt off his back kind
Yeah.
of guy. So the fact
Yeah.
that he's been killed here to feed a family of starving civilians is
Mm.
actually freaking heartbreaking to me. Like, I'm not a fan of it. Like, I shouldn't say I'm not a fan of it. I'm a fan of it, but I don't want to be a fan of it because it's like, why'd you have to kill him off? He was
I
definitely.
really feel like this chapter was trying to make the reader hate the Cross Guild.
Mm,
Like, it's weird because I've always thought of Mihawk as being like fairly honorable. Like obviously he's got that pirate life
Well-
and he kills like rookie pirates and stuff, but like they are pirates.
Yeah.
And he had that whole honorable thing with Zoro. So I always sort of felt like he was like fairly like a good dude. And I know it's probably like mostly crocodile or whatever the hell, but like genuinely Cross Guild in this chapter made me just be like everyone in this thing is like despicable as hell.
Well,
Like
I think a lot of people forget Mihawk is only Mihawk 99% of the time that we see him is just quiet, not saying anything, right? He's just like thought with himself, right? But like most people forget, his literal introduction in the show is him talking about how shit everyone is and how useless they all are and how they're all just scum. And then he cuts down Zoro, and because Zoro showed a bit of tenacity, he's like a bit more lenient to Zoro. But like, he still is a piece of crap a lot of the time. Now, I do have to specify as well. I'm using TCB for this, which is the normal site that's set up on the Discord. But there actually is a clarification to be made where later on they're talking where they're talking about going and attacking or dealing with the other Yonko. When we get to that part, I'll address it. But the TCB scans actually has a bit of a mistranslation on that I'm already aware of.
Okay.
Which can change the context, even though it's just slightly. But getting into the plot hole, and I mentioned this in my live reaction for it. Vice Admiral T-Bone killed, right? He's not a Vice Admiral.
What is he?
He's a Rear Admiral.
I thought he was a captain.
Well, what if he got promoted recently?
Yeah, see, we saw him literally less than a week ago as a Rear Admiral in the story.
Oh. What if it's one of those like posthumous
promoted on death?
promotions? Yeah.
It is very possible, but like the thing is, it's not just like them here saying he's a Vice Admiral, and then also in the headline it's Vice Admiral, as it like says to me in the chapter. This chapter, they specifically were like, he's a Vice Admiral. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure the dialogue was it, but in we learned that all of the captains that we had from pre-time skip were actually promoted to Rear Admiral through the time skip. So the average progression of Marines is every year they tend to go up one rank if they're not going to just stay as fodder, right?
Yeah.
So in the 2-year time skip, you have the captains. So T-Bone, Sharinguru, which is the guy with the wheel fruit, Shu, who's the rust dude, those captains, and Hina were promoted to Rear Admiral. So, like, the people that were Smoker's contemporaries pre-time skip were promoted to Rear Admiral. And we got told that in SBS, and T-Bone was listed as a Rear Admiral in SBS. And then, I don't know if we've had a proper, like, title card for him, but I think we've had a moment at some point where someone was talking about him. I've got up chapter 905, because I know he's in 905, but I can't remember if we see him after that again. But at 905, he was the one that alerted Akainu that Fujitora was in Merijoa when he was banned from the military bases. And they don't specify that he's a Rear Admiral there, but there's some point between here and the end of Wano where T-Bone exists and is confirmed as a Rear Admiral at some point. So if he is a Vice Admiral now, either that could have been retconned as a mistake before, or, like you said, he's been really recently promoted and then killed. Or been promoted after death because of his sacrifice.
Being promoted after death is reasonably common, especially if you die in like some sort of heroic way or like some kind of tragedy.
The only thing about that, though, is we haven't seen it happen in One Piece yet, and they specify in this chapter as well that the world government is making no comments on what happened with him. So promoting him in death may not be what's implied. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Also, just
it'd be interesting actually, because we saw Hina in this chapter when Garp was it lost?
Yeah.
It'd be actually interesting if like Hina was now like Vice Admiral and like a lot of those people that we saw
Are now
now
the
Vice
lower
Admirals.
Vice Admirals.
Yeah, because Hina is like a relatively like popular character, like popular Marine, as in we see her quite a bit and she's named often. And she was pretty cool. She seemed to have like some good, like she seemed to have like if she was like badass like Tsuru sort of thing, she and the Whip Whip girl, like she could her fruit is kind of like that.
Yeah.
Where it's like if she's strong enough, she could just like one shot basically every pirate unless you're above her.
And with,
Significantly above her.
like a lot of people sort of like discredit it as well, but it's like I know it's a relatively like feat, but back when she was a captain, she one shot Mr. Two Bon Clay.
Yeah.
And like you guys forget sometimes like Bon Clay pushed Sanji high diff.
Yeah, Bon Clay was good, like proper good.
Yeah. Like
Yep.
he wasn't
enjoyed that
insane, but like he was actually like even when he was reintroduced in Impel Down, he was still hanging relatively.
Yeah.
So it's one of the it's definitely one of those things. Also, I'd like to point out as well, Cross Guild claimed his bounty, right? Well, they claimed his bounty for Cross Guild. We don't see a bounty for him, but unironically, if a captain is a 1-star bounty, on T-Bone's helmet, we actually see 4 crosses or 4 stars, essentially, right? If you go captain is 1-star, Commodore is 2-star, Rear Admiral is 3-star, a Vice Admiral would be 4 stars. So even though it's not like directly shown there, it could be a matter of like a visual sort of inclination for it. You know what I mean? Like a visual Easter egg there. But yeah, I stand behind the headcanon at the moment that he let himself get killed. Because we saw how strong he was and he survived getting cut down by the likes of Zoro. Pre-times.
And I mean the guy that got him was like literally malnourished and like super nervous and scared, like he obviously wouldn't have been like, yeah, I'm gonna do a really aggressive and sneaky backstab. It would have been like a really nervous, shaky, like can barely even put the knife in him. So almost, and to hit a Vice Admiral like that, almost have to let them do it, right?
Especially for it to be like a a significant one shot, unless it was something like poisoning, and we don't have context on how he died. But I mean, yeah, it is what it is. I really hate this because like T-Bone is the definition of don't judge a book by its cover because he looks like if you saw him in real life, you'd be like, yo, dude, you can keep your distance. I ain't getting involved. But he's actually just like such a nice dude. This is actually so upsetting to me. Like outside of Smoker and Fujitora, I would actually say he's probably the overall best Marine.
Yeah, and I mean like it's even reflected in the dialogue that we get here with Tsuru and Sengoku talking, and it's like this start of this chapter here was just like sad. It was like, what's the world come to? We're literally just like not nice Marines trying to do our best, because all of the Marines that they showed here were non-corrupted Marines.
Yep.
These were all like good Marines who were just genuinely trying to stop evil pirates, because realistically the vast majority of pirates are evil, and probably most Marines are actually good. But yeah, and these are like specifically good Marines that have been around for a while, and they're like, man, what is the world coming to? This is just really bad. We need to stop this.
I also want to note as well, in this scene here between Tsuru and Sengoku, it's taking place in Marineford, obviously, but if you actually look, where we know from flashback that Tsuru actually mans an all-female division of the Marines, right? And if you actually look at the mess hall in the background, it seems to be mostly occupied by buffer female Marines. So this might be like Suru's personal crew here getting a bit more of a limelight in the background, since they are a specialized unit. Also, we get to see, I'm pretty sure, the first canon post-time skip reveal of Bonehead, who's still kicking around, which is Sengoku's goat, who I'm almost now convinced is going to at some point just be revealed to be someone with a goat fruit, who's just always in goat form eating shit.
Oh, we didn't catch that bit.
Didn't catch that.
Sorry, bro. You cut out for like that entire sentence.
Oh no. So we've got the canon post time skip introduction of Bonehead, right?
Yep.
Do you guys know who Bonehead is?
Vaguely, yeah.
Vaguely. That is Sengoku's goat.
Bonehead, let me wiki it.
It's Bonehead.
Oh, okay.
Bonehead is Sengoku's goat, who is sitting next to Sengoku eating, and I'm almost positive is actually going to end up being a marine who's got a goat fruit, and has just always been in
Losing it
goat
again.
form. Oh, hang on. I'll see if I can fix this. Is that better?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
clear. It's
pretty
just
much.
like the audio completely cuts out. It's not,
Yeah.
yeah.
I might just have to keep my volume up to a certain level. You know what I mean? Actually, hang on. Let me just confirm that it's actually coming through from the proper thing.
It's not the quality of your voice or anything or static like that. It's just
Dropping out
it
randomly.
literally starts off really well and then suddenly it just goes boom.
I might just be having random outages for whatever reason then. But yeah, so Bonehead is the GOAT, Sengoku's GOAT. We haven't seen him post time skip. He actually shares a cover with all the Yonko though. Currently.
So Bonehead is a Yonko confirmed.
He may be a sleeper of a marine. We never know. You know, Bonehead may be up there to hang with the best. If you look up, I think it's volume 25 or 24.
Awakened devil fruit goat spy.
Hang on. I'll look this up just to confirm. Yeah, okay, it's 25. Volume 25. He's there. Bonehead's coming, man. He's coming. He's gonna be an absolute menace, right? He'll be able to take out everyone.
I literally can't Google it. It doesn't show up if I Google it.
One Piece
Just
volume
keep getting
25.
book. No, Bonehead.
Type up One Piece volume 25.
One Piece volume 25.
And just like the front cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's literally dead center in the front.
Bonehead, bro. He's a sleeper. You watch, man. He's gonna come back. He's gonna be even if he is just a regular goat. I guarantee you that goat is gonna do something random as shit in the final war. That'll just like put him in the foreground of people's like randomly as a favorite character for no reason. Like you know how like in like war and that something that they don't really touch on a lot is just like random luck. It'll be like Bonehead somehow like goes and nibbles on like the controls to Marijwa and lets everyone invade. It'll be like I'm telling you, it's gonna be something stupid like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, then we get Hina come through having her lunch, and Garp's like, hey, do you know Sengoku's like, yo, do you know where Garp is? And Hina's like, he said he was off to save Kobe a few days ago, so he probably teamed up with Sword. Pretty sure Kujaku's with him at least. And we get Sengoku and Tsuru screaming, what? Don't tell me they've gone to Hajinosu, which is Blackbeard's island. Now, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but if I look at those faces there, to me, I see Sengoku who's shocked, and I see Tsuru who's genuinely pissed off. Like, she looks more mad than she is surprised, if that makes sense. Which, I mean, no offense to Garp, but his record of grandkids getting murked kind of might put Tsuru at a bit of a disadvantage with him hanging out with her grandkid.
Yeah. Also, just the fact that I don't know. I'm looking at like the original, like how the dynamic went of Tsuru, Sengoku, and Garp. Like Tsuru probably to me seemed like the most level-headed of the group most of the time. And wasn't it during that episode 0 when it was her ship that Garp went on?
Yes, it was, and also like, he was gonna steal one of her ships essentially.
Exactly.
But that's sort of the thing where like Tsuru. I don't know. Maybe it's just like because of the way it's drawn, but Tsuru does seem like more aggro there than she does shocked. Like,
Yeah.
she's less goofy. Which, maybe it's just because Oda's trying to save her from looking goofy as a character. Because a lot of the time with, like, strong women in One Piece, it's either they're shown as, like, strong and beautiful, or strong and stupid, if that makes sense. Whereas Tsuru falls into a weird category. Like, there's not a lot of women in One Piece that look old and wrinkled. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, fair.
for the most part, it's her, Orochi's aunt, and Chopper's mother figure, Correa. Yeah, those are like the only 3 old wrinkled women in One Piece. Apart from that, like, you got people like Shaki that are in their like late 60s and like looking younger than a 20-year-old. So, I don't know.
I'm trying to think of a character, but yeah, you're right. I pretty much can't. Like, apparently in the One Piece world, you don't age until you hit past the age of like 80.
I think it's one of those things where, like, you know how Oda makes bad people uglier? Especially when they age. So, like, you know how he always shows, like, the Straw Hats doing, like, the good timeline and the bad timeline, right? I feel like those bad timelines are always meant to represent when they are, like, a greedy person, or they give up on their ambitions. Because we saw, back in the day, like, in Doflamingo's crew, what's her name? Not Viola, the art girl? What's her name again?
Giola.
There we go. See, it was close to Viola. Giola, when she's younger, she's not nearly as bad looking as what she looks like now, because she continued down the path of being greedy by being a part of the Doflamingo Pirates. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
but that's mostly because like they finally got settled and everything like that, right? There was no need to, quote unquote, keep up appearance.
I think it's one of the
Like,
things...
Look at Mark Weiss as well. Like, all of his chest muscle went down to become a belly keg.
But I think that's one of the things that Oda does, where he represents people turning bad. Because, for example, in that same timeline, like, where they all got, like, more, you know, lax in how they look, you've got people like Baby 5, who obviously aged up and was still fairly attractive. You know what I mean? Because she hadn't quite gone down the road of being a bad person yet. Because, like, that's one of the big visual cues Oda does for a lot of people, where when you sort of are young, like, there are definitely ugly people that are young. Like, look at Wapple and look at St. Charles. They're supposed to be in their 20s. Like,
Yeah.
they're supposed to be like 24, and they're some of the ugliest people you'd ever see in your life. Right? So, people that are inherently bad, he tends to make very unattractive. Whereas he makes a lot of people attractive when they're young, and they only stay attractive if they do a good path in life, if they're not scum. Whereas with the likes of a lot of other people, he starts them off attractive and then makes them ugly as they go down the wrong path. It's almost like their punishment, if that makes sense.
Fair enough. Oh, wait, hold on. Wait. There's one more wrinkly character I think that we forgot. Tom's wife.
Hey, man.
That mermaid lady?
She ain't wrinkly. She's sun-kissed. She a fish out of water. She a little dry.
Okay.
Is that...
I want to give you... I guess I gotta give you that.
Look, man, like... That's the only mermaid we know that lives full-time on the surface, right? She just a fish out of water. Don't pick on her, man. The only fluid constantly maintaining contact with her is wine.
I'm sorry, mate. I did not catch any of that.
Yeah, we lost you for a while there.
Oh no! I don't know what's happening with this today. Hang on, I might leave for a
I
second
think
and
we
come
still
back.
lost him.
Give me a second.
Oh,
Lip
no.
read.
All right, is that going to be better? Can you hear me now?
He's back.
I don't know what
I
is.
was thinking, I was about to go into like how to lip read.
I'll just start talking in Morse code with my eyebrows. That tends to work. All right,
Oh, Jesus.
let's move on to the next segment, which is the Empty Bluffs Island, where we meet this guy that cut down allegedly, or took out allegedly, Captain or Vice Admiral T-Bone.
Vice Admiral T-Bone.
Um,
This poor beggar looking man.
I just, like I said, I just can't see him being able to do it. Like, we saw Zoro cut down T-Bone, and he had to, like, Zoro even said, like, this dude's strong, I'm gonna have to put in effort.
Yeah, Zoro, like, granted in One Piece, most of the time, like, sword fights are relatively short, so,
I mean,
yeah, it makes sense.
outside of Daz Bones, I don't think that Zoro's had a single sword fight where he's made contact with someone while being able to cut them that hasn't been over in 3 slashes or 4 slashes.
Yep.
And, like, that's, like, the most high-tier people that he's fought that have survived, like, a couple slashes. And it's always, like, he always just, like, barely grazes them the first 2-3 times and then gets one hit in on them and one-shots them.
Yeah.
But, mind you, it still means Zoro had a high diff fight. Like, just because if he's struggling to cut someone, right, even though we know he's going to do it in one hit, it's still one of those things where it's like, dude, you got to touch him first. You big-ass slow brawler. Dude, Zoro's got a weird fighting style to me. Zoro is depicted as, like, really fast and really powerful and never uses it. He always fights like a tank that evades last second or barely can get out of, barely defend himself.
Yeah, I don't, it's kind of strange, really, because, I mean, even at this point, I'd like to ask Oda how many times has Zoro cracked his teeth? Because there are some impacts that he blocks with his mouth that I just can't imagine that, like.
Are you telling me you don't do tooth day at the gym?
Yo, Brook's
man,
next
I
power
do.
up. Zoro finally loses teeth, and then Brook puts it in his skull, and then he turns into like a biter. He goes around biting people with indestructible teeth.
What could Brook level up his strength by removing his teeth, giving them to Zoro, and letting Zoro train with Brook's bones? Could that strengthen Brook somehow? Are we
I'm not gonna lie. They could have done so much stuff to make Brook stronger. Like they literally could have a whole training arc where he just, you know how it's like when you break your bone, it heals stronger. They could
Yeah,
have a whole
that's,
training arc where he just smashes himself and then drinks milk.
Make
over
him
and over again.
stronger? Why does he need to be stronger? He hasn't fought anyone all out. No, like, think about that. Since the time skip, he's either one-shot people, clashed with someone, and then someone else third-partied, or he's fought a Yonko.
Yeah.
Brook doesn't need to get stronger. Brook just needs to fight someone relative to him. Just so we can actually see what he can do. Like we were having this conversation, Eggs, where it was like, you know, oh, why doesn't he use his music more? And it's like, yeah, he never gets the chance to. He's like a he's like a 9th level bard.
I actually think Brook has to be at least stronger than Robin because when they were running away from people, he was like literally like, "I'll protect you, Robin." He was taking the protector role as like a better combatant.
You could
I feel
argue
like he would have a general knowledge on like his strength versus Robin's strength. You know,
you could argue that that's because she was tired from the Black Maria fight, but I would also say Frankie, Brook, and Robin are meant to be questionably relative, and the whole point of them as characters is they get really obscene, like, they get really obscene moments where they seem so much more powerful, and then nothing happens with them for a decade. Like, Frankie on introduction was brawling evenly with Luffy.
Yeah, I know. Honest to God, I feel at that certain time when it was Luffy versus Frankie, Frankie might have come out with the dub.
It's possible without the gears that he may have came out with the dub.
Without the gears or anything, if it was just plain Luffy, I genuinely don't know if Frankie would have been able to beat him down.
I think Luffy would have won, personally, but I think, like, what it would have taken for Luffy to win would have been a lot more than what a lot of people would care to admit. But at the same point in time, Robin, day one, snapping necks, dropping bombs, doing all sorts of menacing stuff, and then doesn't do anything for like 200 chapters at a time.
Yep. She just picks out a book and A-okay, let's go. Like the Skypiea arc when she fought that gigantic monk bro. That was a genuinely good fight because not only was she against someone who she could not easily submission hold, she was against somebody who just pretty much like just beat her out on a completely physical level. Like she had to really adapt.
I would love to see her have a high diff fight against someone at the moment who is a lesser Logia. So, like, say someone more along the lines of, like,
Technically, she had
Caribou.
a scuffle with Monet.
Yeah, but I would even say, even though Monet is a lesser Logia, she still has a Logia that harms on touch. If Robin had to fight against someone that, like, they didn't immediately hurt her on touch, but she can't just snap them, she would have an interestingly hard time dealing with them, I think. Which we could maybe see her deal into more of her Fishman karate arsenal that we've learned of recently with. You know what I mean? Like, if I use Karibo as an example, Robin can touch Karibo if she spawns hands on him and it not freeze her or burn her. You know what I mean? We're getting off topic here. We gotta rein this back in for a minute. So we've got Buggy bringing in this new recruit, but also Buggy uses the specific term, "your evil charisma incarnate. Stop being so humble. Your crazy stunt really shocked the Marines. They'll have to come for your head. You're welcome to join us." Right? By Buggy saying evil charisma, literally, I can't get out of my head anything other than the literal chapter of One Piece titled Evil's Charisma about Doflamingo. And how Doflamingo's an impel down. Doflamingo wanted to team up with Crockett Marineford. It'd be really interesting if they end up bringing in Doflamingo into the fold. Hang on, I think you guys cut out then.
Oh, did it? Did we? Okay, now it's going on your end. This is strange.
That's alright. But yeah, so thoughts on potentially Doflamingo making his way into Cross Guild.
If Doflamingo joins, from a narrative standpoint, I'd be actually a little bit disappointed, in a sense, because this is quote unquote supposed to be Crocodile's comeback, and we already know that Crocodile wouldn't work under Doflamingo. And at this point, I don't think he'd work with Doflamingo either. Also, Mihawk as well. Like, Mihawk was also wary of Crocodile, but I guess he'd be even more wary of Doflamingo, considering that Doflamingo's impact was on a much greater scale. And Doflamingo also has a lot of extra hidden agendas that we still, I guess,
Unaware of?
yeah, unaware of.
Well, what about in the
Whereas Croc
situation?
is just like, this is straight up business.
What about in the situation where Crocodile is just clearly depicted as being significantly stronger than Doflamingo now?
Dang.
If we get a situation where both Crocodile and Mihawk get a clear display of power, and it's something that we know Doflamingo can't compete with.
Tell you what, I think it's actually like I think it's possible that like Dofi can come back, and it's like, and he looks at Crocodile and it's like, well, yeah, you guys put this together. You know what I mean? Like, I got beaten. Like, I had my whole plan. You had your whole plan. Straw Hat beat you. Then he beat me. Now you've put all this together.
We'll just ride it out.
Yeah, I'll join. Like, I think it's possible they could he could be like, I'll join you as equals, but it's kind of like, you know, Crocodile still has the clout of like, well, I'm the one that really started this. You know, it's like, sure, we're like, it's me, you, and Mihawk on the board, quote unquote, like, you know, like the board of executives kind of thing. But at the end of the day, he still sort of has the respect of being the one that started it.
Which, I mean, if we're looking at this organization, like, even though Buggy has the title of the Yonko here, we know that the Yonko in this situation is Mihawk, right? Like, they even draw clear parallels with him having a bounty higher than the other Yonko, even though he's not a Yonko himself, and they're like, he's a rival of the current strongest Yonko, Shanks. They actually, technically speaking, at the moment, as far as we know, if you are just to take it at face value, as the world's strongest swordsman and Shanks being a swordsman, right, Mihawk would be the #1 pirate threat in the world in the eyes of the government at the minute. And the fact that with this organization they're directly attacking the Marines, you could make an argument that arguably all of these guys here should have a massive bounty jump again really soon. Like, as soon as Cross Guild picks up and the Cross Guild bounties actually start, like, raking in a bit of money, it should make the Marines, like Sengoku and Sura were talking about, really reassess their threat. Because they were already discussing how they were taking it as a joke, how they didn't think Buggy was, like, smart enough to come up with something like this.
Mhm.
So, like...
Actually, just recalling back, it was also mentioned before Mihawk became, a proper member of the Seven Warlords. He was also well known as a Marine hunter. So maybe this is probably the reason why Mihawk was okay to go down to like lengths like this, because they were specifically targeting Marines.
Mm-hmm. I think it's one of the things where Mihawk doesn't make a lot of sense. He's a guy that wants to fight more powerful people, but is also suffering from success of being the most powerful person in his specific field. He doesn't want fame and infamy, yet his entire dream and goal is to essentially gain fame and infamy by being the world's best swordsman. He doesn't seem like a hot-headed guy to go around and like cause unnecessary conflict. And like even in this chapter where he was like, "What, you plan to take on the other emperors and stuff like that?" But at the same point in time, we've also seen him be depicted as just randomly picking people and terrorizing them, like Don Krieg. Mihawk, in a lot of ways, is like a contradictory person, where what he says, what we're told about him, and what he does all make sense from a certain point of view, but they all also contradict with each other ever so slightly. If that makes sense. Like, I know a lot of people have complained in the past going, if Mihawk's so strong and Wano's known for having such good swordsmen, why don't we get anything about Mihawk going to Wano or anything like that? But at the same point in time, why does he need to go there if he's already established himself as the world's strongest swordsman? They should come to him. You know what I mean?
I've always found that a little bit suspicious, that out of all of the quote unquote Seven Warlords generation, that it was only Gecko Moria who actually made it to Wano.
It makes this whole situation really interesting because, like, then it brings in the question: what would the hierarchy be? Like, if this cross guild went into a conflict, what's the hierarchy of like their strongest to weakest fighter? If you were to like start pairing them up against another organization, and really the only other organizations you can pair them up with at the moment is the other Yonko crews, or the world government itself, or the revolutionaries. You know what I mean? And like, especially with the way this chapter ends, I would say the revolutionaries are looking a little better at the moment. For like, I know for the longest there's been a bit of a thought that maybe the revolutionary army isn't top heavy enough, where Dragon is so much stronger than everyone else, and then there's like a big jump between him and his commanders, and like, I think because a lot of people think because Kuma's a cyborg, they downplay him. They look at Ivankov and they're like, Ivankov's no Mihawk or Rayleigh. They downplay the revolutionaries a lot in their mind compared to these other groups and organizations, because what we get from them isn't seemingly as impressive. You know what I mean? But like, the lieutenants we see at the end of the chapter, you got to think that's the revolutionaries equivalent of gifters or headliners. Sorry. So, like, I know that girl Ahiru that we see. She apparently has a laser cannon in her arm. She's like a discount version of Kid.
Yeah. It was like, oh no, I nearly shot you, Sabo. That would have been real bad.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's like that, like, and she is the revolutionary captain or vice captain, lieutenant, whatever you want to call her, of the East Blue. So her contemporaries, her biggest two obstacles that she ever would have had to go up against in the East Blue would have been Bartolomeo and Smoker.
Oh. Well, Bartolomeo, I mean, he just beat her down to a stalemate, I guess.
Because
honestly, even there was the other guy with the binoculars, right? That's just like a casual little gadget that I'm assuming, what's his name made? The tech guy?
Lindbergh.
Yeah, that's like basically a little gadget that the dude made, and it literally lets you see to the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
He saw Sabo clearly on the ship when people couldn't even make out the shape of the ship yet.
He
Yeah,
he was
fair.
able to identify who was on it enough to take a bet.
He was also able to eat the binoculars.
Yeah, dude's got the discount munch munch fruit.
Crunch,
Although
crunch fruit.
I'm not gonna lie, yeah, I know what you're thinking. No, because
I like to imagine he's just like kitted the hell out with all of the gear that Limburg made, and he's got some fruit that lets his stomach be like a pocket dimension, so he just eats everything. And anytime he wants any of the gadgets, he can
Vomits
just
it up.
regurgitate whatever he wants and start using it.
that
Don't
would
we
be
already
interesting.
have a pocket fruit?
True, but it's not. It'd be
Be
through
like
digestion.
the stomach fruit or some crap, yeah.
Barrel fruit.
Could a barrel
I don't know,
fruit user?
like, this entire panel of these four like vice revolutionaries for me, they're,
Alright, let's
they're,
go down
they're,
to it.
they're quote unquote like 50% coupons.
Dude, they going down and looking at them, right? I'm not gonna lie, the cow one, Ushiano, I can't handle the speech pattern. Like the uneducated speech pattern when any other mink on the entire planet in One Piece doesn't have that speech pattern makes me like I like it hurts.
It's
hurts
funny
to
because
read.
when you read it, it just sounds like they've translated it really poorly.
Yeah.
Like that was my first inkling because it's the first like speech bubble on the very right of that panel, and I literally started thinking, oh, did they just like really mess up on this panel here? Like just had a different person translate it, and they were just really bad because it's just like super terrible grammar and like.
It is one of those funny things, but it's also like weird. But I mean, mind you, right? Again, this is the equivalent of a headliner. So this is like that dude that had the lion on his stomach in Wano. Right?
Yeah.
It's a mink. It has Sulong.
Oh yeah, and don't get it twisted. He's intentionally the goofiest looking one because he's Morley's apprentice and he's probably the strongest.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. But it's like even like these people here, right? Like the gamble one, the name gamble and the fact that he wants to gamble, like haha, get up, funny. I'd probably say he's the weakest of this group here, just based on hunches, vibes, whatever you want to say, right?
Mhm.
Or just the lack of cool design. I don't know. He looks like a bloody tea kettle man or a Humpty Dumpty, whatever you want to say. But it's like,
Yeah, but his hat also makes him look like an upside down spinning top.
true that. Maybe he just spins around. Dreidel, dreidel, dreidel. But like you got Ushimaru who can do Sulong. You've got Hiru who has a freaking laser beam, which we see when Sabo and her are talking. You actually see the smoke coming off her hand as she has like cancelled the laser beam.
Yeah.
And then you've got this, spinning dude, and then you got old mate who can see on the shoreline and that, and he's eating metal. He's eating binoculars.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
And
like
all we got is Gamble waving a finger.
So it's like, even just seeing a little bit more of these guys here and that, like, look, I'm not going to say they're really impressive because they're not, but this is, like, these are, like, the top tier fodder on the Revolutionary Army crew, and they're looking interesting at the moment. The fact that, like, I mean, maybe it's just because it's bad design in that. Ooh, not bad design, but... Like, could you imagine end of series, a hero and Kid hooking up just because they're both one-armed cyborg people that shoot lasers? Just like,
A Hero X Captain Kid endgame confirmed.
yeah, just based on simply the fact that they share the exact same design, but they're just gender bent. It would be funny. Like, Kid and Killer...
Wait, hold on. Wait, we might be getting onto something here. It was Captain Kid's right arm, or was it his left arm?
They are both missing the same arm.
Oh, okay, never mind. I thought it was gonna be like one's missing one, one's missing the other, and then when they come together, it's like boom.
No, they're missing the same arm. So when they're facing each other, they can do like the Predator handshake thing with the muscles, but it's just cyborg arms.
Nice.
But like, again, if you can shoot a laser that can destroy a ship, put her in East Blue, which is where she is. And again, you got Bello Betty, who's her captain. And we know Bello Betty can buff anyone's abilities and make them stronger, right? Dude, I'm sorry, she's taken out Arlong, who was the biggest threat in the East.
Oh, easy, she's taken out Arlong.
Like, Arlong versus a Spartan laser from Halo. He's getting toasted. You know what I mean?
He's about to have a Kizaru 2.0 revelation.
So she's got a bit of a monopoly on that. Also, I find it funny that Jiron, the guy that's eating the binoculars and that, if he's got really good observation or vision or whatever, whether it's because of the binoculars or what, right? It's funny that he's Karasu's like apprentice and that, because his whole thing would always just be like he's calling out where enemies are, and then Karasu just comes in as a murderer crows.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So he could
Definitely the binoculars, right? Because somebody said to him like, "Oh, you cheated with those binoculars. You could see him."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, we've got nothing to go on Gamble though. But again though, just as a weird sidebar, a Sulong bull. Just think about that for a second. Because we saw what happened to Beppo, right? How buff and beast Beppo got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, imagine a Sulong bull with the Sulong speed boost that they get, charging you and just impaling you with their horns.
And then he sees red, and then they're all done for.
Dun dun dun. Also, I love in this that we get Moda confirmed safe and alive, happy, you know, smiles and rainbows and all that good stuff. Sabo obviously saved the inhabitants of the Lucia Kingdom, which is good. The interaction between Sabo and Koala, cute as always, and then Morley just, you know, in tears coming to share that love. But the way the chapter ends as well, alright, definitely implies that Sabo knows about him, does it not? Or am I reading into that too much?
I mean, he did see him sitting on the...
Yeah, wasn't it like right before he
chair.
died? He was like, "I saw
Yeah.
something in Marajoas really bad," and
Yep.
then they're like, it was very heavily hinting that he'd just seen him. Like it could all be like a hand wave,
Well,
like you know, it could all just be like a distraction, but it is heavily implied.
it's
that
heavily implied. But
Yeah.
the problem with it is, right, we also have at the time the assassination on Cobra that he got blamed for. So is it going to be, it's setting up that he's about to let them know about him, and then it just misdirects, and it's just like, I didn't attack Cobra. What I saw on the empty throne was blah, 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 Cobra's dead body or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, it could be, the story's implying to us that he's about to spill the beans on him. But if he spills the beans on him here, what does that achieve? Does that mean they're gonna... Because he's saying here as well, what he's telling them. He's telling only these two people because he's like, if we tell anyone else, they'll all die. And it's like, you're already members of the Revolutionary Army, and you're saying, if I tell you, you're gonna get killed. You know, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's so heavily implied that he's about to let them know about him that it's almost like, I wonder if it's not going to be him as a really random misdirect.
Oh man, so Oda's gonna pull one of those again.
Like, you know how we have those moments where it's like you're waiting for like an insane amount of tension to build up in One Piece, and then Oda just gags it away? Like, Zoro and Sanji meeting in Wano, and everyone was waiting to be like, oh my god, Zoro's going to be so mad because Sanji fought Luffy. And then in the end, he just never found out about it.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know, because we don't know the situation at the moment with what happened with Cobra, and obviously we don't know any of what's going on, sort of thing. He said when... what chapter was it? I'll try and find that chapter specifically. It was... What? 1060? Something like that, maybe? That, Im blew them up? It was around then, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, I can search it up for you right now while you're doing that. 1060, right?
Oh, I got it straight on. Yes, 1060 on the dot. Pages 12 and 13. So he says, the empty throne in Pangaea Castle, and then the communication cuts off. Right? The throne that's supposed to remain forever empty because there's no king of the world actually has, and then the communication gets cut off, right? Well, okay, just reading that dialogue there, the throne actually has cut off. So is the throne, is what he was going to say, the throne actually has someone sitting on it? Or is it going to be something like, you know, there's a secret passage or something? Like, I know that sounds dumb, right? But he's talking about the throne, not a person in that context. You know what I mean? It's not like he's sitting there, like, on the Dendenmushi being like, yo, there's a secret ruler of the world. What the fuck? Cut off. So I don't know. I want it to be him, because if it is him, I think Dragon having that information, what would be more impactful? Dragon already knows that Im exists, and Sabo tells him here, and Dragon goes, I know. Implying a level of secrecy in the revolutionary armies where they're not all privy to the same information. Or Sabo tells Dragon, and then he's like, what? Really? And then they've got to choose. Do they stay quiet about it and keep themselves protected, which doesn't make a lot of sense since they're already being hunted? Or do they start a smear campaign letting everyone know about it? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And if they were to go the route of like a smear campaign, who would run it? Are they going to let Morgans know and Morgan's going to spread it? Because if that happens, Morgan just puts a big target on his back. And we know Morgan's not afraid to like let the world government just give him a bribe and just, you know, change how things are. Because it puts us in a really difficult situation here with like what will happen to the world, because it's either going to be a matter of it rocks the revolutionaries or it rocks the whole world, if that makes sense, assuming this is like Sabo giving the information about him. Whereas if it is just like some random red herring, I'm not going to lie, I'm going to be a little pissed off. Like, because of how it's set up. But the problem is, because I know how Oda writes, I know he writes by setting up random stuff that just never happens sometimes.
But that's the thing, is like kind of what my general take on it is. They've implied, I think they've like implied that they're going to talk about Im so heavily that if it's anything else, it has to be something pretty significant. Otherwise, a lot of the fan base is going to be like, well, what the hell? This is like kind of nothing, you know? Like if he just goes like, the world government has put Cobra in prison, it's like, I'd rather have that big revelation about Im, and you know? So it's like, yeah, I think it would have to be something pretty big if it's not. And if it was something else that's pretty big, I actually think that'd be really good, because having all of this build up and then he just tells about
something
which
else
we kind of already knew it was going to be.
Dramatic irony.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay, cool.
Okay, what if it's a matter of, instead of Im, he's aware of, say, behind the empty throne, there's a secret passageway down to an ancient weapon, which is what they use. Which is what they use at the Lucia Kingdom. So it's like, he was so close to getting the information across, but he just like didn't get what we needed, because Im's existence being kept so secret is one of those things where if Sabo just running around Marijua was able to learn of his existence, why doesn't it ever become a thing to the 170 kingdoms running around there when it's time for reverie? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, I guess you could always like, you know, skirt it away and just being like, you know, oh, they're set to designated areas and blah, 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 blah. But it's like, some of those kings have got some like decent haki, don't they?
Uh-huh.
So it's like, you know, and some of these people are like combat leaders and that. If you had someone strong enough to have like a good observation haki go to Marijua, surely they would be able to sense the like threat that is Im.
Yeah, most definitely.
It's like, surely it would come across like a really strong voice. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't want to. I don't have the ability to actually like confidently say whether or not this is going to be Im or going to be something else completely. And I know this was like a really random thing to bring up, but it's like it's because it would be like because we're all expecting it to be Im and it's so clearly set up to be Im. It would almost be disheartening for it not to be Im, which would also play into if that makes a fatal flaw for the revolutionaries here. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, I mean like if Sabo ends up unintentionally leading them down a trail that they're not supposed to follow,
Because
would be a good way.
if we go to the second last page of this chapter, where Koala's kicking Sabo,
Mm-hmm.
down that bottom panel of that page with Bello Betty saying, "It's a real shame what happened to your homes." Notice how there's someone that's sort of dressed much differently to everyone else behind Bello Betty, but their head's cut off by her hand.
Oh, with the proper collared jacket.
Yeah.
That's not a Louisian kind of attire.
I actually sort of questioned while I was reading it. If he found out that there was going to be an attack at Lelucia and he just quickly sailed back to Lelucia to grab as many civilians as he can to escape, that would be directly opposing how the government handled O'Hara. And the reason Akainu killed the civilians at O'Hara was in case one of them was a scholar. What if Sabo rescues all these people from Lelucia only for it to be like a CP agent who's now in the revolutionaries, like snuck in? And
that would be a good piece of irony considering like how everybody was considering Akainu's deed to be extra cruel, but yeah, this one sign of mercy could be what screws over the revolutionaries. I like it.
And like I know it's got no backing. It was just like while I was reading, I was like, you know what, that would be interesting writing, because the whole point of the revolutionaries is up until now they've been so secretive and so protective of all their actions that one split second good deed brings their whole downfall here. You know what I mean? Especially since we know from that chapter 1060 that they already knew that the revolutionary army was on Kamabaka Queendom, because the monitoring division could tell where the revolutionaries were like talking from. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
Where is it? I'll try and find the exact. Or was it it might have been the chapter before. At 59, because that chapter ended with, because you know there was that chapter that ended with him going, "It's me, Sabo," and then we didn't actually see any conversation with him. Because otherwise, at this point in time, I'm a little bit up in the air with whether or not anything meaningful is going to happen with the revolutionaries as they are at the moment. Because I know they've got to do something, but it's like there we go. We had the moment where it's like we're all expecting them to make a big attack at the Reverie, and that never happened. And with the revolutionaries specifically, we just keep getting teased that they're going to do something, they're going to do something, they're going to do something. They never do anything. You know, from attacking the Reverie to Dragon being at the Reverie to them fighting the admirals at the Reverie to try and free Kuma, and something bad happening, and then no, it turned out they all got away completely fine and safe, to then us having Kuma and being like, oh, what's going to happen here? And then Kuma just leaves. It's everything that's happening with the Revs at the moment is just constant failure after failure. But they haven't.
Are they getting used to this kid treatment?
I mean, they may be. But yeah, it's chapter 1058, the last page, right? We have the Marines going, "I'm picking up a call to the Kamabaka Queendom. It's the Flame Emperor. Record it and trace the signal." Yes, sir. So they do know that Sabo's... Because, and again, they, like, in that chapter 1060... they know that Sabo's on the Lucia, or near the Lucia, so it's like, they know where the Revolutionary Army is anyway. You know what I mean? So it feels odd that they haven't done anything about it. I don't know, like... It feels like the world government at the moment isn't really taking the revolutionaries seriously because it feels like they're not a threat to them at the minute, in that sense. You know what I mean? But then,
I mean, I think, like, to be fair, yeah, like the whole world is bloody on fire right now,
Hmm.
particularly in the new world. So it's like, I mean, you kind of know where all the admirals are, right? Except for maybe Fuji right now. In terms of like Kizaru's out going to Egghead. Green Bull has just taken Weevil. Obviously, Aokiji isn't one of
admirals anymore.
the admirals anymore. Then what? All we have left, and then like Akinu can't really take a
Action.
manual role often. Yeah. So then all we have missing is what Fujitora is doing.
And mind you, Fujitora would be the worst admiral to send to the revolutionaries since he's already had open acts of defiance against your orders.
Yeah, and he's already fought them and not like just
Capture
clapped
them.
them all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not like you don't just send him back for another round.
So it's one of those things where it's like, oh shit, what do we do? But then at the same point in time, it's almost like we know that CP is the bigger enemies of the revolutionaries than the Marines. So instead of sending an admiral, it's more interesting where, okay, they know where they are. Why isn't CP0 here? Or why isn't the weapon we use against Lelucia maybe coming over here?
Yeah.
Because that would be another devastating loss. Because imagine, like, we get this... So, like, say Oda's getting a bit more ruthless with it, right? The revolutionaries saved these guys from their hometown being destroyed by that giant weapon, only for the weapon to have followed them here.
Ooh.
It would give...
Yeah, that's heavy.
It would give some, like, pretty, like, heavy sense of impending doom for some of these characters, wouldn't it?
And
Yeah.
I mean,
It would have to be there would have to be a way for them to get off though, right? Because you can't just wipe out them all. It would have to be like they manage to scatter and then they lose that island and now it's scary because they all have to like split up and like
Or we see some capacity in which Dragon's able to defend against it.
which would be busted.
which would finally be a fantastic feat, so we could actually power scale the guy.
I think if Dragon defends against that, it would have to be probably the best feat we've seen in the series.
Probably.
Stop that! Like that is literally like an instantly annihilating, and then like we've seen Island Buster attacks,
But that
an attack that
atomized
just
the island.
evaporate. Yeah, that would be the strongest feat we've seen in the whole series.
It would definitely be interesting. You know what I mean? Alright, that being said, let's go past this revolutionary stuff and go back to the beginning of the Cross Guild stuff and let's work our way through there, alright? So,
Okay.
we get this new guy that killed T-Bone. We talked about him already. They open him with welcome arms. It really seems implied that T-Bone sacrificed himself to help feed his family. Especially since that place is so poor. The fact that T-Bone was even there in the first place, you can almost tell that he would have been like just trying to help everyone. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like heartbreaking and sad. Then we got Buggy just getting gassed up by all the lads, and we also get the Cross Guild ship first be made. Now this ship isn't actually that big, so I actually want to raise an idea here of Crocodile and Crocodile and Mihawk don't like this ship design, right? What if they get their own ships built next?
Yeah.
So they've got 3 ships because every other Yonka crew's got a fleet, right?
Yeah.
What if they produce a small fleet of ships here? So you got like the Buggy ship, the Crocodile ship, and the Mihawk ship. And it's like, even just to add it in like a little bit of like a comedic way. So you know how Buggy's ship here almost looks like his like head is like a candy wrapper?
Yeah.
They could do something silly where they just give like Crocodile and Mihawk's ship just like it's them, but they still look like really cartoony. Like really dumb sort of thing. Also, this panel of Buggy being scared as Croc and Mihawk roll up on him, I think is my favorite Buggy panel in the entire One Piece manga. Like, it is both like such a vibe with Buggy, so well artistically, but it's also scary. Like, if he pulled that face at you, you'd think like there's like a poltergeist about to like end you. You know what I mean? So it's like I find that so funny. We also see his crew watching him as they drag him into a big bricked room with a cast iron door that just like seals shut, and he's being tortured. The dude has literally they have a whole torture room just for fucking over Buggy at the moment.
And he literally like wants to die.
Like,
yeah, I know.
bad.
Like,
Like-
that's serious.
no, but look, there's
That's what I mean by this chapter. Like, genuinely made me hate the Cross Guild. Like, especially like Mihawk. Like, it made me think so differently about. I already knew that Crocodile was a scumbag, obviously, because he was like killing all. He wanted to like kill a bunch of civilians in
Alabaster.
in Alabasta. But like, I don't know, Mihawk just seemed to be like, I just kill pirates because they're all scumbags, and then I just kill like scumbag marines because they're all corrupt scumbags. You know what I mean? Like,
No, Mihawk just is
he
he's
did
a
seem
slasher.
a bit cold. He didn't seem like evil, whereas this is like.
There's
really bad.
There's only 3 seats in this room, and if you notice, the one for Buggy just has spikes on it.
Spiked, yeah.
So like they literally just scumbag him up, and you know they've got him hung up in that, and like we've got this whole scene of like Buggy being like, oh, I don't want to, and we've got Crocodile and Mihawk arguing over the fact that they need wealth and power, and Buggy's just like, bitch, aren't we pirates? What is the one thing pirates are meant to be after? Wealth, fame, power. You know where and how to do it. So why are you acting so prissy, hiding behind these other ideas, other theories of like, you know, we need to do this sly plan, we need to do this, we need to do that. Bitch, you just need to get the One Piece and harden up. And the worst part is, both of these guys were considered like Yonko rivals in a sense, with like Mihawk with Shanks and Crocodile having repeatedly gone after Whitebeard. And even though Croc got beat the shit down, it's like one of those things where it's just like, you guys know what you're going to be competing with, and you know what you want. We know from Miss Golden Week's cover series that Crocodile's entire plan is he wants to be Pirate King. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So this whole interaction here of like these guys just pulling the strings in the shadow, they are more Doflamingo than they probably want to admit.
Yes, most definitely.
And then
Go ahead.
we get this flashback with Buggy, and this actually may be one of the most like heartwarming things in the series, where he just like loves Shanks, and he thought Shanks was going to be the Pirate King, and the fact that Shanks didn't end up taking that step to be Pirate King made Buggy run away and be like, fine, I'll go start my own crew if you're not going to, you know, live up to the expectations that I have for you and that Roger had for you and whatnot. And then obviously he makes the declaration that he wants to be the Pirate King, and it just like absolutely pulls the rug out from Mihawk and Croc. But you got to think, in that moment where he's like, you know, it's time for us to go and claim the One Piece, it's mirroring what Shanks did, which is beautiful, but also Crocodile's dream is to become Pirate King. So Buggy being the figurehead of his organization, if they get the One Piece, is like essentially saying like Crocodile's the Pirate King in everything but title. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like he would be notably pissed. Meanwhile, Mihawk's there supposedly just like, yo, I don't want attention. I don't want to be, you know, on the radar at the moment. And we're going after the One Piece. What? That's on the radar. What the fuck? You know what I mean? So Buggy, like unironically here, Buggy beat them at their own game here, where he's kind of like bullied them into having to go and do it, I think, because the fact that the men want to do it means they're going to probably have to rise to it if they want to keep the organization together. You know what I mean? Like,
Because if the people aren't on your side, you're pretty much just 3 guys.
yeah. And they already know they need wealth, fame, and power, and the power isn't just them, it's like military might. So they've like, you know, dragged themselves into it. But like going back to this flashback, I think what Roger so you know in the Odin flashback, Roger, after going to Laugh Tale, sees Shanks again, says something to Shanks, and Shanks just cries. I'm positive at this point in time that interaction was something as simple as, because Buggy cared more about treasure, he didn't really pay attention and listen to what was on the poneglyphs when he was on the crew, where Shanks did, right? Because Shanks is like genuinely more like inquisitive. I think Shanks was aware of like the ancient weapons and all that sort of stuff, and obviously because we know the crew had an ancient weapon on their ship, right? He asked Roger, because I'm assuming it's either got something to do with the fact that he thinks it was going to change the world or the world government, or it would have been a cure for Roger's disease, right? I think that's what Shanks was thinking it was while they were sailing around for it. After they sailed around for it, I think Shanks just asked a simple question of, did we find what we needed? And Roger's reply will be just something very simple. We were too early. And so that's why Shanks makes the decision here to not go after One Piece, because Roger saying we were too early just heavily implies that, dude, it's not me and it's not you. Just call it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is why this whole interaction here, because Buggy, like, unironically, because Buggy doesn't pay attention of what's happening around him because he gets caught up in his own shit, he just probably wasn't aware, so he doesn't have any of that context because he didn't have an interest.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What do you guys think about this? How did you guys interpret this section of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like Shanks's entire thing was basically like he was waiting for quote unquote Joy Boy. Even if he doesn't know about Joy Boy, it's like he heard what Roger said and he knows that it ain't him. So he's kind of just been waiting for the one. I think the reason he's gone now is honestly just to add a bit of competition to it. He's just like, oh well, Luffy's ready. Let's do this. Let's fight. Let's challenge him. We're gonna go for the One Piece now as well. Because he almost like expects Luffy to be the one to come out on top, right? Like if he is the one, if he's like the destined one, then it's like, well, at this point, Luffy's now here and ready to claim the One Piece. He's a Yonko now. If I now go after the One Piece,
so
fate will have its way, and he'll still get it.
In that situation, then, does that mean, in your mind, almost, does Shanks have the same goal as Kaido, just a different execution? Both waiting for Joy Boy. The difference being Kaido's like, whoever beats me is Joy Boy. And even though he limited himself in that fight, he got beaten by Joy Boy, right? Whereas Shanks might be like, originally I thought I was going to be Joy Boy, but I wasn't. And then I thought Roger was going to be like this dude, but he wasn't. I think it might be you, but I don't know. So if I've waited until the person that I thought it could be has gotten into position, and now that you're going for it, I'm going to challenge you, because if you really are him, you'll be able to stop me.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically like I'm gonna throw my hat in the ring, because he's not supposed, like, if Joy Boy is this person that's like fated to like change the world and potentially find the One Piece and all this stuff, and Shanks's mind, it's like, well, if I just go get it first, I'm like screwing up the whole prophecy. But if Luffy is now at this point, and if he is the Joy Boy, and he's at this point now where like he's able to compete against me, well, me just letting him go isn't really like fate. You know what I mean? Like, no one is fated to just have everyone just like allow you to achieve the goal. You still have to like work hard to achieve it. So he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go for it now, and I'm kind of hoping. I think he's kind of hoping that, or expecting that Luffy will sort of beat him to it. I don't think he's like intentionally trying to like, I'm gonna go hunt down Luffy and fight him now. It's more like I'm gonna go get it in my own way, and then he's gonna go get it in his own way. And it's interesting because we've got this new revelation about the black ship and having basically the final road poneglyph, and now we're basically setting up for all the
Everyone's
four
going for
Yonko right now are ready for it. Yeah. So it's actually weirdly, I'm actually weirdly thinking like this is basically going to be like, I'm imagining now like all four Yonko ships arrive to this place at the same time, and they're like all simultaneously fight Im, who's on the black ship or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, weird, because it's hard to know how this is going to go down, because none of the Yonko yet have shown be like about to fight each other. They are all seemingly going after this one specific ship, not each other.
Well, Can I put a different perspective in your mind?
Hmm?
Buggy's the only one right now that doesn't have a poneglyph.
Yeah.
So one of two things is going to happen for him to get in the running. He's going to need to get the other 3 poneglyphs, or he's going to need to be the first one to get the poneglyph that no one else has.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And depending on which way it goes, I could see it being one of two things. How would you guys feel if we, at some point soon, very soon, have the Straw Hats, have a cliffhanger of the Straw Hats colliding with the Blackbeard Pirates? And then the week after that, we have a situation where the Red Hair Pirates have a clash with Cross Guild in an all-out war. And then as we go back to dealing with like our first person perspective of the Blackbeard Pirates conflict, we're left guessing who will win, Buggy or Shanks. And in that situation, I genuinely have to ask, who do you think would come out on top narratively?
Between Buggy and Shanks?
Yeah, and their organizations respectively.
I mean, I think Shanks.
Yeah?
Yeah. I honestly feel like yeah, I honestly feel like Cross Guild might be the weakest.
Okay. Okay. That's it. Now,
Just because, yeah, you're assuming they have a Yonko level person who can clash against Mihawk, and obviously, like it's hard to make a call out on like which one's gonna win. You know, you can't really like. I mean, even if it was like Kaido versus Big Mom, vast majority of people were like, "Oh, Kaido's probably a bit stronger than Big Mom." But if it was like Kaido's crew versus Big Mom's crew, it's like I don't know. It seems roughly equal, and
Mm.
you're just looking at like first division commanders and below at that point for like the fodder wins, right? So it's like Blackbeard X, whichever Yonko is, or, VS, whichever Yonko is there, and then it's basically like, is Crocodile first division commander level? Is Buggy second division commander level?
Ooh,
And then do they have enough of a power gap past that to make up for not having a third, fourth, fifth?
I would feel. Well, I mean, in that situation, I think they have all those other commanders. Except for Buggy's the hardest person to gauge in terms of strength because he is competent, but he's also incompetent at fighting. Right? Like he can't take a whole lot of damage, but he is like he's got tricks by being able to separate himself, and he's got his bombs which cause heaps of damage. Right? Whereas for the rest of the crew, okay, so you got Mihawk and then Croc. Where would you say Daz Bones is with 2 years of training in Haki?
Hard to tell, but the thing. So the problem with Daz Bones is that I find it really hard to hype him up because the only reason why Zoro wasn't trashing the hell out of him was just because he just couldn't cut him.
Yeah.
The entire fight, Zoro was just better than him as a swordsman.
Yep, in every exchange, Zoro ended up getting the upper hand. Like every single counter parry. Like Daz Bones did have very impressive cutting power, but he just like for a guy who's apparently a really famous assassin and who's really good at killing people, he really struggled with the initial like just quote unquote sword play against Zoro. I find it really surprising.
I don't agree with that personally. I'll put it in the Discord at some point because I went through a while ago. I've only done the pre-time skip. I haven't done the whole thing, but I've broken up all of Zoro's fights into like folders that I can just click on and go through the whole fight start to finish. Right? Zoro's fight against Daz Bones. Daz Bones was fucking him up for the first third of the fight. And then for like the middle third of the fight, he started like getting used to how Daz Bones fight and was just getting hits on him but couldn't cut him. And then for the last third of the fight, Daz Bones amped up again and was just doing much bigger and heavier attacks and messing Zoro up again until he beat Zoro, and then Zoro did the Lion Song. Because it actually had a really big back and forth. Because Daz Bones was destroying like 4-story buildings, literally like just putting his hand near Zoro.
I don't know, like my memory of it was like Zoro was like constantly doing little scratches to his arms and shit as they were fighting, and they just weren't doing anything, obviously, because it was just like, he's metal. What the hell do I do here? And then it was like literally just like, I'm just fighting a brick wall until he became able to cut him, and then he just cut him, and then he won.
Yep.
All right, hang on. Let me know if there's any audio issues, because I've also got my
And then-
laptop up at the second.
The problem with it as well is like back then in the series, being completely made of steel is like super powerful. Like holy crap, that's amazing. But now in the series, it's like, who cares? I'll just bend you in half. If anything,
Well,
you're just weak as a kid.
See, that's the thing though. We see what having Daz Bones' fruit with Daz Bones' fruit with added strength is like now with S Hawk. And the likes of like exclude Zoro because Zoro's still a god. But if you were putting him up against other people, right? It's like having Queen go up against S Hawk without the durability, or like Kaku. Because Kaku's struggling against him. Because S Hawk has Daz Bones' fruit. So we've actually seen him using that combat style.
Yeah, but the other reason why S-Hawk is so OP is because his body and his strength, and the fact that he has like potentially some of Mihawk's skill. Like,
yeah, no, I do definitely like that. That's why I said it's kind of like it's not 100%, but like we have a concept of what someone with his fruit is like when they get the rest of them amped up. You know what I mean? And up until this point, like Daz Bones has been Croc's right-hand man, while Croc's been succeeding in the New World as well. So Daz Bones is equivalent, like literally Daz Bones at the moment should be at least around what Killer is, right?
I think I'd put him like
Oven?
Yeah. Like you know, like he's a strong member of the crew, but he's not one of the commanders.
Okay. I'm not gonna argue against it because it does make sense because he wasn't like super broken. But like the thing about it is that like, well, I mean, okay, flip that. What if he's awakened?
Which means he can turn the ground into metal?
Or turn anything into a cut. So say he can just like awaken and turn the air coming towards you into like air slashes.
I don't know. I feel like with awakening, it just doesn't make that difference. You know what I mean? Like, it's like a cool extra trick to get around to make the fight more interesting, like narratively. Like, it's not going to be like, man, I would never be able to beat you, but I can turn the ground into razor blades, so I just instantly win. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, for example, like with Dofi, it was really cool because it basically just amped his current strength because he can make really strong strings, and when he turns a building into strings, it's like, oh wow, now you have a lot more strings. So it's just like a strength amp. It wasn't like I turn the ground into razor sharp strings and you just like get sliced in half as you fall through the floor. It's like, yeah, it's hard with like the one shot things. Is like it would, what I would imagine it would be like he can create like blades that come out of the ground, and you have to kind of like use perception hockey to dodge them, which would make him a lot
more
stronger.
threatening.
Yeah, but I think it would also just end up being a narrative thing where it's like, damn, this is really like imagining like Zoro fighting him, like, damn, it's annoying. He might cut his shoulder or something with a blade, and then eventually Zoro has to figure out how to dodge it and fight him. And then, but once he does, then he just wins.
Again, though, in this situation, I'm just saying, say Crossguild doesn't fight, like, say they're not fighting the Straw Hats here, right? Instead of putting these people up against Zoro right now, we're looking at the other contemporaries. So it's like, does Daz Bones, with 2 years of training in Haki, have a chance against the likes of, like, Vasco Shot?
Vasco Shot. Forgot what Vasco Shot's fruit was.
The glug.
Yeah, probably.
So that, like, and because that's what the equivalence. Ooh, actually no, it'd be like the second division commanders. So it'd be like Daz Bones versus Jesus Burgess at the moment.
Well, I mean, you could even say third, right? Because you've got. Yeah, no, I guess it'd have to be second.
Yeah, and like again, well, I mean, it depends.
Yeah, I don't think he's fucking up Jesus Burgess.
But it would be an interesting fight. Because say he's awakened now, even, right? It's like you've got to do this way stronger versus a dude that can just spawn cuts on you.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It would definitely be an interesting conflict, to say the least.
Yeah. It would be. I mean, it would. He would be. He would actually make for an interesting fight if he was awakened. To do something like, even if he could just be like the wind is blades, and you can like create like a storm of like wind blades or something like that. And then you basically just like the only way you can really get around it is just like you arm that Haki full body, and until it can't cut you.
Yeah.
And because it's like a long distance awakened thing, he can't Haki it up. So it's kind of only as sharp as it is. Like if you're at a certain level, you can sort of just
Well-
full body arm and Haki and walk through it. But if you can't, he will just wreck everybody.
This is going to be a really random segue here, because I was actually thinking about this today. Well, actually, not today, but like through the week, right? Because I was on at work and that, and I was listening to a really long stream about like Naruto and Naruto scaling and stuff like that, and like Boruto and stuff like that. And it like, I won't go into detail because the whole stream, like, I was just like fuming the whole time, because it was like, it was a matter of like the argument that was being had was like, you know, Boruto characters versus people in Shippuden, and they're like, they haven't shown these feats, and it's like, we know that they haven't shown feats that are capable of it, but we keep getting told they're stronger than those characters. So it's like,
Right.
you either have to turn around and be like, the narrative is wrong and the people that are writing it aren't perfect, or they're stronger even though it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to your headcanon, right? And then I was sitting there thinking, because they were talking about how like they were talking about B and A versus Minato, and like I literally had like a moment of thought. One big thing that they've talked about recently, because one of the author comments from Kishimoto was he never wanted guns in the series, because if people had guns, all the ninjas would just get shot and die because they're better than kunai, right? And I had a moment where I was like, holy shit, Minato versus Van Auger. They both can teleport anywhere at the moment. One uses kunai, one uses a gun. One needs to tag shit, one doesn't. And I know Minato has a lot more like Sage mode and stuff like that as well on top of it. But it's like, dude, at the moment, Van Auger is actually just like a more unfair version of Minato. And like, obviously we probably won't ever get the moment where we see him get like, you know, get the Minato treatment. You know what I mean? Where he's just like beating everyone by blipping around. But it's like I sort of had a moment there, and I was just like, you can't even say that Minato's reaction's better than Van Auger's, because Van Auger literally could see past the event horizon. Like he could see over the curvature of the earth to shoot birds out of the sky. So it's
Also, to be fair, I'm pretty sure Von Ogre uses some sort of like blunderbuster rifle or something like that, right? And to that credit in itself is already really impressive, because I'm pretty sure blunderbusses aren't known for their incredible accuracy.
oh hell no,
they're
hell
like
no.
crap.
Yeah.
So
So
no, which is why I'm
People used
surprised
to
that
use
that's
them
a
as basically
sniper's weapon.
shotguns.
also
Yeah, people basically use them as shotguns. It was like stick the barrel in your face and then fire.
Yeah, because I remember reading something about like when people were on ships, they used it for like close quarter, like when you're getting raided, that kind of like it's basically the equivalent of your shotgun.
Yeah, like I think if you get a blunderbuss in a video game, it's usually always like the shotgun class of weapon.
Yeah, I know. And then you just gave one of those things to Von Ogre, who is supposed to be Blackbeard's sniper.
Also, just as a sidebar, if you want to look at it for a second, just so you got an idea of what I'm talking about, not in the general, but in the One Piece chat stream, I've just uploaded the entire Daz Bones fight, start to finish.
Yep, I know. I'm actually reading through that right now.
So like, you see what I mean by it's like, Zoro definitely has like more skill than him, but like Daz Bones' attacks even back then were absolutely way more devastating than you probably remember.
Yeah.
Like he
That's one was cleanly cutting through columns of stone and everything like that.
yeah. It's just like Zoro's durable as shit, because like all the attacks that he was getting on Zoro was making Zoro like bleed profusely, but it was still a matter of like he was clean. If that makes sense. And like there are definitely moments like when Zoro does his bull needles on Daz Bones. That's probably the most hits he gets on Daz, where Daz isn't directly just cutting him with like the sword aspect of his body. Like it's one of the only attacks Zoro gets on him that's just him, if that makes sense. So he is like pretty relatively skilled still in swordsmanship.
I mean, like even in the panel right before Bull Needles, Dazbones blocks with his knee, and then you can see Zora's other sword is on his head.
Before Bull Needles?
Yeah, right before Three Sword Bull Needles. There's like a little slash there. And like one of Zoro's swords is on his leg, which has been turned into a blade. The other sword is clinking off the top of his head. He's literally cutting him on the forehead.
Yeah. But it's like, again, look at the other, like, because we're saying he'd be going up against second division commanders, right?
Yeah.
Does Queen have the haki to cut him? He didn't cut Sanji.
To Queen.
Sanji's a little bit different.
I'm not saying they're the same, right? But like the second division commanders outside of Ace, they're lacking some feats. They're more tell don't show characters at the moment.
I mean, would a laser beam take out a piece of metal?
Oh yeah, 100%. And a laser beam would jack him up for sure. But at the same point in time, like again,
I mean, technically, Queen already did shoot himself accidentally a bunch of times with lasers.
It's one.
The other thing is like blunt force is actually really good against metal. Like the way that they used to take out knights in armor was they would use warhammers. Like that was the actual only real use for warhammers. Yeah, they would literally what they would you know how annoying it would be to take out a knight. What they would do is they would tackle them off, or they would kill the horse, or they would tackle them off the horse, and then they would gang up. They would like literally push them on the ground, and they would get like 4 dudes to come over with warhammers and just keep smacking into him until you've cracked through the armor and killed the guy. Like that's how hard it was to kill a knight. That's why, like, the kings, when they went into battles and they were, like, surrounded by, like, 10 knights in full plate armor, would never die in the battles because, like, no one could get through to them.
I'm just looking for
yeah.
I mean, medieval warfare, that was, like, on a completely different level because nowadays you can shoot a guy. But way back when you had to storm a battlefield on foot with nothing but, like, a big pointy stick.
Because
you see it on like TV shows, and it's like one dude swings a sword, and every time he swings, he kills someone, you know. But in reality, it would have just been like a massive kerfuffle. Everyone's just pushing each other to the ground, and like.
Oh my gosh, man! You have no idea how much like I know we love watching like when people cut through armor and stuff, but sometimes when I see those in movies, especially ones that are quote unquote trying to be historically accurate, and I see them like cleaving through people, I'm like, no, that's not how armor works. Like granted, like if you're wearing like a full-on helmet and then you get hit in the head by like a sword, you go like it's painful, right? You're like, ow, okay. You might get knocked unconscious, but if you get hit in the head by like an axe or something with proper heft, you're done, bro.
Yeah, that's it. Like oftentimes what would happen is basically someone just keeps hitting you really hard repeatedly, and you just get super disoriented. And then there's like a gap in your armor opens up because you're just kind of like, I don't know what the hell's going on. I've been hit so many times in the face. And then someone gets through your armor and stabs you, and then you're like, okay, I'm dead. Like, it wouldn't just be like you run in and then someone runs you through, and you're like, oh no. Like, every little fight would be like a couple minutes even of just
every fight,
bang.
like, unless you get lucky, like you just happen to find a gap. Unless you get lucky, like. I mean, you're pretty much like this is why like individual training was so important because if your 1v1 skills were just crap, you were just done.
So bring you back to the point I was making, right? At the moment, sorry. No, that's perfectly fine. So say at the moment you got Mihawk taking on a Yonko, Crocodile taking on a first mate. Let's just say, for argument's sake, Buggy's taking on a second division commander, but it's a meme war. Right? Where it's just like, he's just got a bunch of fodder, no-name people with him, and he's just falling up. Right?
Yeah.
Daz Bones versus a fourth division commander? Oh, sorry, third division commander? So, could Daz Bones... And again, I'll say this. Think about how Kaku's relevant at the moment compared to what he was pre-time skip. You'd probably assume Daz Bones gets a very similar treatment. You know what I mean?
Wait, sorry, Kaku?
Yeah, Kaku. Giraffe dude.
Yeah, but at the same time, Kaku is not. Well, I don't know.
Kaku's
is like a
definitely
genius.
I mean, so's Daz Bones. He was like the prodigy assassin of the South Blue.
Look, maybe, but I mean, Daz Bones was in jail, whereas Kaku was getting trained.
I mean, Daz Bones got out of jail the week that Kaku got knocked the fuck out. He was in.
Yeah.
Like, he got out of jail. He went to Marineford. He got cut down by Mihawk, unironically. So, 2 years in the New World. I mean, he handled the New World better than Kid, didn't he? He didn't lose a limb.
Yeah, he also didn't challenge a Yonko.
Fair play, fair play.
He could be tough. I just don't know if I'd call it like second division level.
Well, okay. The problem is at the moment, right? I wouldn't. Well, I mean, I'm saying third division in his situation here. Third division commander level. Around there at the moment.
Maybe like if Oda wants to make him like, yeah, he's come back real strong.
Because
yeah, I wouldn't be like, that's ridiculous.
Because put it this way, right? Kaku right now is definitely hanging with second division commanders, or beating them.
With who?
Second division commanders, or beating them.
Kaku? Oh, I don't know.
You don't reckon? An awakened zone user, master of Rokashiki, that's clashing with Zoro now while Zoro's using Haki.
I mean, Zoro kind of clapped him, didn't he?
The fight went as bad as evenly as it did when they first fought. It was just quick, and it was just a bunch of homages to their previous fight. But it was still pretty relative. And the fact that Kaku right now, like Kaku and Zoro have been overwhelming the S-Hawk Seraphim, they just haven't been doing damage to it.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I don't know, like, the way that I saw it between Kaku and Zoro was like, Zoro's barely beaten the first division commander, and he just blocked Kaku and just bapped him into the ground. It did not seem that hard.
But Zoro cutting him didn't cut him. He bopped him into the ground while Zoro was using Haki. Whereas
I think if he was Kaku was like a straw hat, like he had protagonist energy and he went up against a second, I'd probably think that he was going to win. In terms of just like unbiased ranking, if he was like considered a second division, I'd probably consider him the weakest of the second.
Based on what we saw from him, he's shitting on Who's Who, right?
Yeah, he would be shitting on Who's Who.
So if he's shitting on Who's Who, the next person's Jack. I could see him beating Jack with a mid-diff fight.
Okay, but sure, but will he beat Cracker? Will he beat Yasop?
But
you know what I mean? Like, you can't take the weak, like the literal shit show. Like, that's like saying, oh well, this person's beating the Yonko, but I reckon someone.
No, I definitely get that. So like, okay, do we want to go around and look at the other commanders around that same sort of threshold?
Well, that's what I mean. Is like, I think you could make the argument that he could probably beat a third.
Can you make an argument for him to beat any of the seconds? Because I could see him possibly beating Queen. Because he's got similar speed to Sanji. And he's got way more lethal attacks than Sanji.
No. I don't think he has as much strength, and I don't think he has as much speed.
As much, really, as Sanji. Because Sanji was still beating the shit out of
Sanji is speed, man. Sanji could speed blitz fucking Lucci.
I think Sanji's got relative speed to them at the moment.
In Sanji's entire thing is speed. He literally can move so fast that he just disappears, and that's not even shave. That's just like, I'm moving that fast.
Well, it would just be a constant state of shave.
like Lucci and Kaku's speed feat is like they can use shape, which is what like a small range
Well,
dash.
we did see Lucci do something similar to Sanji's turning invisible thing against Luffy back in his fight against Luffy, but like he like came out of it pretty quick. Like he didn't do it for long, right? But mind you, right, in this situation, Sanji before Ifrit Jambe was still absolutely dicking on Queen. It's just when he got Ifrit Jambe, he literally one comboed Queen.
I'd say he's winning.
Because
I'd say he probably was winning without Diablo Jumbo.
and again, it's.
I mean,
it makes sense because they've been he had so many power ups that he didn't actually ever fight all out, so we never actually we never knew how strong these guys were. It's the same with Zoro. You know what I mean? It's like if you made King have any other ability other than the fact that he had more durability than Kaido, so he couldn't get cut, how would Zoro have gone in that fight? He probably would have just beat him heaps quicker.
Yeah, and like the problem with Zoro as well is that like he beat King in kind of one shot once he learned the Conqueror's armament thingy with Enma, like went into that mode.
He three-shot
It's entirely
King.
possible that right now that's just kind of his base.
Yeah. He three-shot King. And like I'm like when I'm talking about these characters and how strong they are at the moment, I get rid of the fucking Straw Hats out of the equation. We're late game pro tag energy. Right? We just fucking shift them off to the side. The fact that Luffy's pretending like he's struggling right now when we know he's got advanced Rio and Conquerors? No. Get out of here.
Yeah, that's kind of ridiculous.
But when you're looking at the other people that are being shown relative to them at the moment, even though we know they're not, right? It's how would they go relative to the fights they've had at the moment. You know what I mean? Like, Kaku and Lucci. Like, Lucci was 100% a prodigy. Kaku was sort of a hidden prodigy. Kaku almost unironically is like Lucci's apprentice in a weird way. Where he wasn't he wasn't believed as a prodigy. Hence why Jabra was like, oh my god, when did Kaku get that strong? But it's like he's a sleeper. He's got a sleeper build where he's got that pro tag energy. It's just he doesn't, get that prodigy highlight. Because Lucci's always with him. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like...
I definitely see that.
So it's like... If you look at these guys, Zoro with Haki didn't cut Kaku using Haki, right? But we know that Zoro cut the shit down. He one-shot Killer with Haki. Right?
Yeah, that was kind of sad. But it was cool, I guess.
And... at the time, Zoro and Killer were both nerfed, so you can chalk it up to like neither of them were at their A game there. But it's like, okay, well, if you're looking at Kaku and that, he's got a damn good moveset. If you're throwing him up against the Beast Pirates, I'm saying he's washing Who's Who because he has what Who's Who has, but better.
I'd say he's easily washing Who's Who for sure.
Right? If you throw him up against Jack, I would say the toughest thing you could argue is Jack just might be physically stronger. But does that matter since we know Kaku's just faster and has higher DC in his attacks? In the sense that it's like got Duraneg sort of stuff.
I think he'd beat Jack as well.
Yep.
The only problem with Queen is just that we don't have a very good base of information about second division commanders because Queen is really weird. Right? And he didn't show any like traditional forms of power. He showed like weird inventions and shit. And when you think about anyone really fighting Queen, you just feel like, oh, they're probably fast enough to dodge the lasers, and they kick pretty, they attack pretty hard, so they could probably beat like you can pretty much justify like most people beating Queen. But at the same time,
this is where I get into what I call the second division parody or paradox, right? Where all the second division commanders we know are supposed to be stronger than the third division commanders, but all the third division commanders have got a better showcasing than the second division commanders. Right? Like, we've got Ace, right? We know how crazy Ace was, and I would say Ace was the strongest second division commander, full stop. Right? But then we have the likes of Diamond Jozu just being able to like run through fire and just take out people that Ace would struggle with. You know what I mean? Even though Ace is seemingly like portrayed to be stronger. We have Cracker, who is Cracker. He's Cracker. But then you got Smoothie, who just does nothing, and everything that she does do is always like she's at a disadvantage. Right? Smoothie's supposed to be stronger than Cracker, but it's like, dude, we saw what Cracker was capable of, and we're just told what Smoothie's capable of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the thing is with One Piece is that like usually you get to see the hardcore feats enough in the main fight, as in like the main command, like the main captain of the crew versus Luffy.
Yeah.
But in every other fight, generally speaking, we don't really see everything that someone is capable of. Like
Zoro's
Power
more
scaling
important than
pretty much-
Sanji, and then and that scaling keeps just trickling down.
yeah, and like power scaling, especially most of the enemies of the Straw Hats, is like about as hard as like power scaling like Brook or Robin. It's like you don't really know exactly how strong they are.
Yeah.
You have like a general vibe on like how strong you think they are, but like even like Frankie, like you don't really know because some people could come away with it as like he barely beat the person that he fought in Wano. Other people come away as like he just smashed him. Really like shot him with one laser and smashed the dude.
Yeah.
So it's like you
And
could think about it in two completely different ways. Like, oh, he
that's-
lost his big suit and he only just won at the very end. Or it could be
A
it
pacifista
was
takes
a
him
bit of
out.
a goofy fight, and then he literally just shot him with a laser and won.
Like you could make an argument that a pacifista one-shot Sasaki.
yeah,
So it's like one of those things where it's like, okay, he could probably take out a pacifista pretty easily, but if one got a shot off on him, he's out.
Mhm.
Like, yikes. And that's one of the things, because it's like, okay, again, saying Kaku is like, just for argument's sake, say he's at least 3rd division commander level then, right? Because if you threw him up against Yasop, right, we know Yasop can see the future pretty well, so Yasop would have the advantage there in getting shots off, right? But at the same point in time, the biggest unfortunately about snipers in One Piece is every time we see a sniper shoot people, it doesn't hurt people. So it doesn't matter if you're the best sniper in the world and you can land every shot you take. What happens if his bullets aren't strong enough to hurt? Because, like, look at Van Auger. Van Auger got heaps of shots off on Law's crew, and we literally saw Law's crew unhark it up, tanking bullets, and the bullets just peppering off their chest.
Not a great feat for Van Ogre, I'm gonna say.
Yeah, and, like, you can argue Yasop's in the same boat. We know he's got the future sight. I'm not taking that away from him. But we don't know if he can, like, do damage? Because, like, again, he's just got a flintlock sort of thing.
but again, like it's really hard. Same thing with like the power scaling being really weird. It's really hard with Shanks' crew because their whole thing is basically that like just that one small crew carries their entire fleet, and their fleet is like
Yeah.
really weak.
So-
and they're literally like, yeah, they are the entire army in one, and so realistically, their commander should probably kind of be a little bit of a cut
Stronger,
above the other
yeah.
commanders.
And that's what we
So,
get told
like
over and over.
yeah, so like even if Kaku can't beat Yasop, I would still kind of say that he's like better than the 3rd division commanders, because it's like he can beat everybody else. You know, it's like if someone can beat, yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
It's really hard.
Let me-
It's hard with that stuff.
Let me put this into perspective then for the rest of the Cross Guild for the minute, right? If you were to throw them up against the Big Mum Pirates, right? Galdino, Mr. 3, would be going up against the likes of Perospero.
Well, we already know how that fight is going out.
I mean, I think that's pretty equal.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's just that Sparrow, like, it's just the drive that has it hard for me. Because Mr. 3, like, he's honorable, but he's also a coward at heart. So I just can't imagine when Sparrow and him eventually do have to duke it out. Like, Sparrow's probably just gonna have way more drive to kill him.
I don't disagree with Perospero having the better drive out of the two, but I could definitely see, because again, like, Mr. 3 has, like, you could argue a slightly better fruit on some shit. and we've seen his fruit be told to us it's like significantly stronger than steel.
Yeah, fair.
So you could argue in that situation, although he's more scared and Perispero wants it more, he might have like a devil fruit advantage there, where his wax is stronger than the candy.
I don't know. I feel like you could even say that the candy could be stronger than the wax.
Oh, you definitely could.
Like we literally saw Cracker with like crackers that was so hard that it was like
Yeah.
ridiculous, right? And
Yeah.
like that, there's the whole meme about hard candy. And he could be like, "Yeah, look at my hard candy. It's so strong. It's even stronger than Cracker's biscuits." Like you could have some crazy shit like that going on. And like realistically, there's no reason why wax is that strong because in real life, wax is like never that strong. But you can get some pretty rock hard candies.
Yeah, no, you definitely could. And like I said, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm not gonna say it's an easy fight, but these would be like what the matchups would probably sort of trickle into. You know what I mean? If you've got like Mihawk going up against Big Mom, Crocodile going up against Katakuri, you'd have Buggy going up against Smoothie, both doing nothing against each other. Daz Bones going up against Cracker, which, I mean, I stand Cracker. You know I stand Cracker because he has such good feats. But at the same time, if anyone can prove that they've got stronger Haki than Gear 4 Luffy, they can break the Crackers at Whole Cake Island time. And I kind of feel like Zoro's proved that by being able to cut Kaido.
Oh yeah, I mean Zoro can definitely cut a Cracker for sure.
Which means because Kaku can defend against Zoro with Haki, Kaku can break a Cracker.
Well, I think Kaku could break a Cracker. Like I like I said, I think he's probably above the third division. But I think the thing is that it's that cutting versus impact. So like Luffy couldn't really break it as easily because he had to just like his fist was like nearly as big as the Cracker as he was trying to punch it. So like really, it's not a matter of like he can cut through it. It's a matter of like he can obliterate it.
See,
whereas it's like the difference between like putting a dent in like armor versus like hitting it so hard that the entire armor just explodes.
I definitely agree, but like it's like one of the problems where it's like it's that's an example of real world physics saying one's stronger than the other, but in world physics it's like, oh, they're the same strength. You know what I mean? But then okay,
like for example, like I don't know, like yeah, I don't know, it's hard.
So again, Daz Bones going up against Cracker, you'd have Galdino going up against the likes of Perispero, Alvida going up against Snack. Because like,
well, we have to give this one to Snack, don't we?
I mean, no one can touch Alvida. It's one of those things where it's like these people are weaker. I'm not gonna joke for a second. Like the Daz Bones, Galdino, Alvida combo, they're weaker than their opponents, but they just may be, because of their fruits and stuff like that, they just might like edge out on matchups, even though it would be like, really? You know what I mean? Just because it's like,
I mean, yeah, this is One Piece. Like anything is literally possible.
Right? But it needs to draw Robin versus Alvida, and Robin's trying to use her new
and it's slipping off
moves on her, and it's just slipping off, and it's basically just like a hot tub bath thing.
I mean, that very well could happen.
And they're just grabbing each other and slipping around.
Do you know what would be funny if that happened? If Nami interferes in the fight and is like, if you just slipping off her because she's so smooth, I know how to counter it, and she learns from her fight with Khalifa and turns Robin slippery, so that because they're both so slippery, they can make contact.
Yeah.
On some gag shit.
Okay, I was just about to say, if you make them both slippery, I'm pretty sure two positives don't equal negative in that sense.
It doesn't make sense, but it would be one of those things where it's like, you know, because you're both so smooth, it's almost like you've got friction. But like, and again, Cross Guild's hard at the moment because we've got a bunch of level 6 Impel Down breakouts in this organization that we haven't seen come to the forefront yet. You know what I mean?
Wait, did Buggy take level 6 prisoners? I thought it was just levels 1 to 3.
It was 1 to 3, but we also know that a bunch of level 6 prisoners escaped, and we haven't heard from them since.
Yeah, that's true.
And
that's probably just the ability to make movies out of them.
Well,
Looking at you,
But we do know in the manga, what's his name? Django, the bounty hunter that got in between Luffy
Oh, yeah.
versus
yeah, Django. Yeah, the
Django.
cactus and
Yeah,
the guy
yeah.
with the really good throwing arm.
He talked about how he knows where all the level 6 breakout prisoners are hiding at the moment. Right? And it's like, okay, does that mean... Is he referring to, like, Hajinosu? Or is he referring to Cross Guild? Because after the Blackbeard pirates left, we know a bunch of other pirates also, like, escaped. And because you get that report at the end of Marineford to Sengoku, where he's like, after everyone left, because Magellan was defeated, we had like another bunch of people escape. And he's like, shit, put out bolos, we've got to get all these people capped. And then they were like, yeah, we can't, the Gorosei told us not to. So, like, there could be a handful of other random, like, semi-good tier people here that end up, like, getting it, like, almost like they get drafted through Cross Guild at the moment. You know what I mean?
Like, I do think that they are a Yonko crew, right? Like, I do think that they are, like, at the level of a Yonko crew, yeah. It's just that, like, when I think about Luffy fighting them, I feel like it's going to be, like, they'd win. Like, the Straw Hats would win.
Again.
And then I also feel like the other two Yonko are probably, like, stronger than the Straw Hat crew, just because it's, like, a thing that's, like, it's got to be an uphill fight, right?
What about this crew going up against the Revolutionaries?
Depends on how strong Drag.
Well,
I think there's an argument that SABO could be considered like essentially Yonko level.
Well, where I place SABO at the moment is...
I don't think it's definite, but I think it's arguable.
SABO is relative to Luffy, but losing to Luffy at the moment. I think.
Yeah, Sabo's in that weird like little wedge where he's not on par with Luffy, but he's above everybody else.
He's around Law and Kid, but like probably better than both of them.
But I accept
that. Sabo's in that weird place where he's ahead of the competition, but he's only second to Luffy.
Yeah, and like, but like the problem is here then. If you was to say in this situation like Cross Guild versus the Revs, SABO versus Crocodile, obviously I'm sitting here going, well, SABO's got much better showcasing than Crocodile, but then it could be like a matter of like, well, shit, what's a Logia awakening like? Since Crocodile's whole thing was like, yo, I didn't main Haki, I mained Devil Fruit. I'm unlocking my fruit to its maximum potential. You know what I mean? Like,
but also I would think that it's a bit of a, you know, like with enough heat you turn sand to glass.
Oh, dude, 100%. Or, I mean, shit. Again,
that's it. What if you just unlock more aspects of your fruit?
Well, what
Maybe
if
he can actually control glass now? Like he can just turn sand into glass at will and have like shards of glass flying around.
What if?
Are we gonna have a Kazekage moment where Crocodile wields iron sand?
What if a Logia's awakening is whatever effect your Logia has, you can apply it to non-Logia things?
That'd be busted.
So our Keiji picks up a sword, and if you get hit by the sword, it freezes you like Brook, right? But he can do it to anything. So he can make your guns a source of freezing. So your guns, like, you know how oven, like, superheated guns and it burns you? He turns your guns frosty and it freezes you.
I would say the only thing for that, though, is that sufficient Haki would stop it from occurring. Right?
Yeah, but, again, the sufficient Haki argument only applies to, say, like, a captain and they're, like, top 3.
Yeah,
if
sure.
that,
like
right?
Really high levels, yeah. But I mean, to be fair, if you've awakened, if you had a Logia, you're already taking out most people with ease. If you've awakened it, it's like you're already in the top tiers, man.
But that's when certain fruits would get a much better highlight. So, say Crocodile can like apply the moisture drain on anything. All of a sudden, Sabu comes in with his metal pipe, and his pipe starts like mummifying his hands.
Yeah. Again, I would just say you just have enough Haki, right, that it wouldn't happen.
Well,
but you just have Haki going through the pipe.
you could do it with the ice because the ice is changing your, like it's encasing you in ice, right? It's changing your temperature. But with like getting like, if Crocodile touches you with his hand, I don't think you can just harky up your arm and the moisture comes back.
No, what I mean is like I think like hockey is basically like my willpower allows me to just not be affected by your
But
fruit.
I would say in that situation, it would depend on the type of fruit and what the effects would be, and that's where they would bring in the hierarchy again of certain devil fruits being better than others.
As an example, though, Law was affected by a literal disease that changed his gender, and he just used hockey,
But
and
that's-
the disease left his body.
But that's because
reverted.
But that's because it changed, like it permanently changed, like him, like the shape of his soul almost, right? Whereas say that was Smoothie, and Smoothie grabbed his arm and juiced his arm after he's had his.
hockey.
After I see, I don't think he could. After he's had his arm juiced, I don't think he could just use Haki and the arm goes back to how it was.
I don't think he could use hockey and the arm goes back to how it was, but I think if he was using hockey on his arm, it wouldn't get juiced.
Okay, but then what I'm saying here is that's what would make this like more of a thing. You're not going to be Hakied up permanently doing that in a fight because you'd be draining all your Haki. So,
But you know how for example like Law couldn't move the Yonko around because they just had too good hockey. It's like that.
see,
If you're high enough level, you just can't really affect them.
okay, but in that same situation, Law was still able to affect them with his awakening,
Yes.
regardless of them having that Haki.
But it wasn't like he could awaken and then he could start swapping them around.
Yes.
Right? He used specific awakening technique.
Which is what I'm saying here. The awakening technique itself, I don't think would be able to be defended against the same way. If you were doing the Haki and had it like say it's almost like full body Haki sort of thing, just like as a visual representation. You have to go full body Haki before they do the attack for it not to affect you. Whereas you can't do it after the fact and go back to how you are. So if it was Crocodile, right? Say, ignore anything else. Say it's like Crocodile versus Mihawk, right? And Crocodile, say if a Logia Awakening can make the status effects of your fruit occur on things that aren't your fruit. Say Crocodile's able to turn Mihawk's sword into a source that drains all your moisture. All of a sudden, he's got to drop his sword because his hands instantly start mummifying. You know what I mean?
It just seems too OP to be a thing.
Well,
Like I feel like the whole point of the whole like I can just use Haki to not be affected by Devil Fruit powers. The whole point of that is to like negate the BS.
But then again, though, we're at the point where because the big thing is like the two main power sources in the series are Haki and Devil Fruit, right?
Yeah.
We're at a point where Haki is far surpassing Devil Fruits, right? So they've got to bring that balance back in. Oh, no, but that's it. The admirals are all a Logia that would probably be awakened.
Maybe be awakened.
But you get what I mean. Like, okay, put it this way: if the admirals aren't awakened, we won't see an awakened Logia in the story.
Unless it's Croc. The other thing is that like it's entirely possible that like Logias just can't awaken.
But we know they can because Vegapunk talked about it.
About Logia's awakening?
Yeah, he was like Logia's awakenings that are impossible. Like Logias are impossible to make, and their awakenings are just a pipe dream.
Yeah, right. I don't know. Maybe that just means they just don't even exist.
Or it's a matter of like he can't replicate it because he was already talking about the fact how he can only replicate paramecias by having the DNA of the people that have it already. He can't make one from scratch.
Yeah.
So because we know he's able to replicate Kizaru's fruit, he just can't take it further to make a personal Logia, even though he can make the laser itself. It's
if
beyond
that's
his
even
scope.
using the fruit though. It could have just been I understand the concept of how your fruit's power works and I can create it with science.
I think that's what it is. He understands how the concept works and he can make it with science because apart from that, he can't make a Logia in any capacity at the moment because it's beyond his scope of ability. He's not smart enough.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not that they don't exist and those powers don't exist because we see them. Like there are Logias, you know what I mean? It's just Vegapunk knows that the ancient civilization can do it. He can't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, possibly.
Well, it's not even a possibly thing. It's like he pretty much states it.
Yeah, I know that he can't create Logias.
No, he says he can't create Logias. He can only clone Paramecias, and he can make a zone. Because zones are the easiest.
Yeah.
So it's like showing you the step by step of like, yo, this one you can. This is easy, medium, hard. You know what I mean? He's in the medium intelligence range, and even then, he still can't even create a Paramecia, which we know Paramecias are created, right? We know at this point in time, we don't know how they're made, whether it's hopes and dreams or whatever, but there is a source in this world, whether it's 100% science or 100% science fiction, being like a magic system, whatever you want to call it, that like the devil fruits are a product of something. They're made in some capacity.
Well, yeah, of course, but like saying that, just clarifying, they were made. We don't know if they can still be made.
Yes, but I would argue then all that means is we just don't have the technology to make them at the moment.
Yeah.
And
or whatever the fuck made them. Maybe it was like some spiritual god that's long dead or some, some crazy.
Well, I would argue based on what Vegapunk's plotline is, it definitely points to the premise of it being more ancient technology that they just don't have access to anymore.
Yeah,
and
which is funny because it's like saying he's not smart enough to do the Logas. It's more like he just doesn't have any. He hasn't recovered the technology because really all the shit that he knows is yes, he's an absolute genius,
but he's only ever done
anywhere close. Yeah, he wouldn't be anywhere close to where he is now if it wasn't for finding all this other technology.
Exactly. So he's a smart dude, but he's obviously not the smartest person that's existed in the world of One Piece.
If you found some ancient journal that talked about how to replicate a Logia, he'd probably be able to do it. He just hasn't found it.
Put it this way, right? As smart as Vegapunk is, all he's doing is chasing someone smart as Shadow. Including his devil fruit that allows him to be as smart as he is.
In fairness, if you're a race of people that can create devil fruits that let you be smarter, why don't you be very smart? Because you just have those devil fruits.
And I think that's one of the things where it's like whenever we get the whole Joy Boy thing in that, we're gonna see how like smart they are, but we're never gonna get a proper explanation of like how they do these things because part of it is it's just like they're just so smart they can do it. You're too dumb. Forget about it. You know what I mean? And it like may even be.
I mean, it'd be interesting if like a lot of the technology was fueled by the fruits. Like they made the fruit and like we'll get the guy with the electricity Logia to provide shitloads of electricity to this device that allows it to do this thing. So therefore it's like even trying to replicate them, you kind of can't because now the fruits are all scattered everywhere.
Do you know why it's implied that is the case? Because Burka, not the Sky Island, Burka, the continent country in the moon, is run by NL's Devil Fruit, even before NL got there.
Oh, right.
So their entire you know how he was talking about like an internal flame that'll never turn off? Ooh, hang on.
Yep.
It's starting to rain like crazy. I'll drop me my audio back a bit. The internal flame that'll never turn off, it's probably the awakening of the flame fruit. The awakening of the flame fruit, realistically, is probably just a matter of a flame that like never turns off unless the user turns it off. Like an Amaterasu sort of thing. Like that would make a lot of sense for it, wouldn't it? A permanent source of the element could work for a Logia as an awakening.
Mm-hmm.
Like a permanent black hole, a permanent source of light, like how it's always daytime at Annie's lobby, never turns to night. Could be definitely something like that. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, because it's the science, the pseudoscience is there and like backed up so much and stuff like that. There is definitely it's definitely set up in a way to be like it's all science, which implies again that like they may be able to recreate all these things again one day. Have like if they get to that level of science again, but at the moment they're just not smart enough to. But it doesn't stop the fact that all these devil fruits do exist, and all these devil fruits can awaken. It's just, are you smart enough or skilled enough to do it? Because you like using the example of like the devil fruits and stuff like that. What happens if the awakening, as we see it now, you know how it's like you got to train and you got to become one with the fruit or whatever to be able to awaken your fruit? What if it's just as simple as, oh, there's not meant to be an awakening, you're just not using your fruit to its full capabilities, and the people that made these fruits could instantly awaken any fruit?
Yeah.
Because for them, it's not an awakening, it's just like, oh, we know how the fruit is because we designed it.
That's true.
You know what I mean? So it could very well be like the same sort of thing here. Which, again, going back to it, could be like, then we get into what is an awakening. I know everyone likes to point to Punk Hazard and be like, oh, Logia's awakening is just terraforming the planet or terraforming a land space. But it's like, I feel like a Logia can do that without awakening already. Crocodile Alabaster. NL, with a bit of prep time in Sky Island, literally made a giant ball of lightning that would have just consumed the entire Sky Islands.
Yeah.
Like, once a devil fruit sort of does their thing and they fuck off, I feel like for a lot of the Logias, it could like permanently change the island without it being a special ability of theirs. Like, could it not? They are that powerful, aren't they?
Yeah, probably could.
Like, how many times has our Kiji frozen an ocean? It, like, how long? Like, okay, imagine Aokiji is at Marineford one day and he sneezes and he accidentally freezes the ocean. Imagine the cleanup crew where they've got to get Akainu out there for the week, just melting shit.
It just seems that like for Haki, I've had so many quotes about like Haki being like the be all end all of power, and like, you know, with Roger only having Haki seemingly, as far as we know, and stuff like that.
Here's an ironic idea. Haki is willpower.
Yeah.
What would be the greatest form of willpower than using your skill and intellect to create your own abilities, like devil fruits?
So you're saying that like Haki created the devil fruits?
It could potentially be like, there could be potentially some form of Haki involved in the process of making a devil fruit from scratch. Yeah.
Yeah. That wouldn't, like, the narrative has been Haki over fruits though.
As of recent, yes. But it like
so like yeah, I just feel like having like the top and then the other thing as well is that having the mythical zones, and in particular like the sun god Nika, is like, I don't know, I feel like it's kind of yes to be like, but if you have a Logia and you awaken it, you're just like better than everyone.
Well, it would be everyone other than if you say awakened the sun god fruit sort of thing.
I mean, Luffy has, right?
Yeah, but that's the point. He's the chosen one, unless it's buggy.
If Crocodile could just be like, I'm just going to suck all of your things out of your liquid out of you from afar, and you can't do anything about it.
Again, it would be if you're holding an object in that situation, is what I'm saying.
And you're wearing clothes.
Yeah, but we also know, like, the devil fruit uses clothes count as their body, their person. Hence why Chopper turning Monster Point, his pants grow with him. Oda's said this in SBS. Like, your fruit abilities also work on your clothes, personally. So that way they don't have a bunch of naked people running around.
Yeah, but does that mean that they can't use their fruit ability on your fruit ability? Because Luffy's entire body is rubber, but like you can still use your fruit ability on his rubber.
Well, I would say it's I would say it's more one of the things where it would never be written in a way in the story where it's just like he just turns your clothes into a source of draining. It would be he turns your weapon into it, something that you can drop and not be naked.
Yeah, but then it's just a matter of like how Oda wants to write it.
Yeah.
Like, for example, in my opinion, I think that if he was going to write if he wanted to give Crocodile that power, and he was writing Crocodile versus Mihawk, Mihawk would just be like, "No, I'm one with my blade. You can't take my blade from me," and it just wouldn't work on his sword. Because Mihawk is a swordsman, and he's the
Well,
best swordsman ever, and he has the
again,
black blade. And blah, blah, blah.
in that situation, you could just chalk it up to he had his haki activated before Crocodile could do the ability. Like whenever Mihawk's fighting, he's just always hakied up with it. You know what I mean? That again, it would come down to like matchups and whoever gets the ability off first in those situations, because it's like if you exclude Crocodile from it just because of the draining effect, right? Say you made it someone like Caribou instead, right? Someone we never assume to get to a point to where they're awakening, but whose fruit would be an interesting concept. Where it's like, say, Caribou ends up awakening one day, and he's fighting someone like Judge, right? Judge comes in with his big Garuda spear and goes to attack him, and he turns his spear into mud, and it like starts to fall through his hands. But then the other effect of the fact that the mud is a pocket dimension kicks into effect, and it starts sucking him into the mud world. And so he could use his like jet shoe things to try and like fly away, to fly out of it. But if he doesn't, he gets sucked into the other dimension. And then it's no different to if Caribou walked up and gave him a big hug, sort of thing. So you've got to be wary about like if you're fighting someone at that stage, like in a top tier fight, right? You've got to always be on your guard. So it'd be the difference of if you're on guard versus off guard, where you would have people like who have got good observation haki be like, oh, he's going to try and use my weapon against me here. I'm going to drop my weapon. I'm going to have to fight him another way. It's more challenging. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is what would make like the Logies more like, oh, my Logi's more busted sort of thing. Because it's like they're intangible and you have to change your fighting style out of your comfort zone to fight them in the top tiers.
Mm-hmm.
Which would be very much like how it is if you take haki away altogether. Fighting the Logi is pre-time skip. Because a big thing about this story sort of feels like Oda's bringing it full circle, where we go on this like really pointless power creep journey of like, oh my god, the world's so much stronger, we're so much stronger, and we've got to like, get to this top level, only for the top level to be what we started with in the story. Because it's like, it becomes a monopoly in the sense where it's like, if you give one person this power, they're broken. So you go through a period of the story where they're broken, and then you go, okay, now I want them to fight against other people that don't have this power, and I want it to be a more fair fight, so I've got to give everyone else this power to even the level, like, even the playing field. So it's almost as like, instead of everyone having that power, it's the same equivalent of no one having that power. Like, Luffy versus Kaido, it was like, what was the point of having Future Sight? Because, like, even though we're told both of them are using it, it's one of those things where it's like, when both people are using it, no one's using it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like an odd stalemate sort of thing. Because, and I'm not saying 100% that that's what a Logi's Awakening is, because like I think there are so many possibilities. I've seen people say that a Logi's Awakening could be that they actually anthropomorphize their element. So it's like, you know how like Akainu has that like Hellhound attack where he's like got a dog face that comes out and bites? It's like, he spawns like a hound out of lava and it runs around and fights for him. But then it'd be like, okay, Arkiji's got the bird, the pheasant beak, right? So it's like, okay, if Kizaru's awakened, then are we going to see just like a monkey made of light? You know what I mean? Whereas if you look at what a Logia is you create your element, you can control your element, and you can turn into your element. If you took those things to the next level, it would be you can create more of your element or a better version of your element, right? You can control more of your element, or you can control other things that are like your element, and you become your element, then becomes you can make other things your element. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's sort of like a best of all worlds sort of thing. And we see that with like a Paramecia's awakening, them turning their environment into their thing. So it's like, if you were to be like, I'm trying to give examples of like non-busted Logias, because the problem is like the busted Logias having these abilities makes them really busted, but then it's just going to come down to like, okay, they're fighting Luffy, and Luffy's just like, I imagine it doesn't work. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, no matter how broken they are, they can still be like fucking nerfed. at this point against certain people, and depending on what other people's abilities are, like Buggy's a goof, right? Buggy very well at this point in time in the story, right, is just like completely powerless. Buggy would get folded by those people in a conflict. If you put on someone else though that's like a contemporary of Buggy at the moment, like Blackbeard, even though Blackbeard's broken, his whole thing is like, I can turn off people's devil fruits because otherwise I can't compete. So Luffy's thing is, I just turn your power off because I think it doesn't work this way. Blackbeard's is, I turn your power off because you can kick my ass. Buggy's is, I'm lucky. And then you've got Shanks, who's just like, I've got the one thing that's supposed to counter all your abilities. And then everyone else is just like, well, we're busted. Which is funny because it's like, everyone else is serious, whereas the Yonko at the moment are all kind of fucking goofy. Except for Shanks, who's the serious one out of the Yonko. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you know. Speaking of, as like a really random thing, how much of an insult would it be if end of series, Buggy actually gets the title of Joy Boy? He gets credited as Joy Boy instead of Luffy.
Can't do it. You can't. You can goof on other characters, but you can't goof on Luffy.
It's not a goofing on Luffy. It's like, so you know how like Joy Boy is, or Sun God Nika is supposed to be like the warrior of liberation that brings smiles to people's faces.
Mm-hmm.
A clown that freed a bunch of prisoners and is going around liberating people from countries of poverty.
Oh man,
trigger
Buggy
me.
really is working his way up there, ain't he?
Like, I could see a situation where the story of Sun God Nika gets out to the wider public and people don't know Luffy's got the Sun God Nika fruit. They still think it's the Gum Gum fruit, right? And so, like, the story, you get, like, two camps of, like, almost like a religious cult, where it's, like, the Buggy fans versus the Luffy fans.
It's the other dude in Harry Potter who was, like, the other chosen one.
Neville.
Never
Yeah.
long.
Neville.
Yeah. It could definitely happen like that, because Buggy is, like, one of those weird people that, like, you could say because he's a clown is always bringing smiles to people's faces, you know what I mean? Even though, like, unironically, he's, like, a terrifying little shit.
I mean, you know how, like, Luffy's got that whole thing where, like, he just makes people like him and join him?
Yeah.
He has people that have joined him. They just don't like him yet.
Yeah. And
What if, like, he wins over Mihawk and Croc and they're like, you know what? We will make you Pirate King.
well, again,
He, like, genuinely is the same as Luffy, right?
yeah. Well, I don't think he's ever going to genuinely win them over, but I think he's, like, if he didn't do this here, if he didn't say it's time for us to go get the One Piece, they never would have been in a position that they're going to be in end of series, where they may have that same reputation of being, like, the equivalent of, like, a Pirate King crew. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying that he's going to be, like, a Pirate King, but it's like, if the line of logic goes down of Buggy being, like, misrepresented as one of the candidates for Joy Boy, right? I mean, how's he any different to Luffy at the moment? Where it's like, you have a Joy Boy, liberator of chains, first of his name, smiles on faces. First mate is the world's greatest swordsman, arguably. Zoro, Mihawk, arguably the world's greatest swordsman. Their second in command after that is, depends on who you want to say it is. If you say it's Jinbei over Sanji, because he's the number 3 at the moment, okay, both former warlords. If you say it's Sanji instead of Croc, it's like, okay, both, like, bygone rulers of countries, sort of thing. Like, there's a lot of ways you could spin whatever their stories are, that they've, like, got near identical crews. Both came from the East. Yeah. Literally, Buggy's, like, the first Devil Fruit user we saw in the story other than Luffy. So it's, like, the first fruit that got thought up of after Luffy's. There's a lot of, like, badly but funny parallels between them. That it's, like, especially when you've got people like Bartolomeo out in the world, you can't tell me that there's not a possibility of them, like, having a Barto group form under them especially with like how they're like getting the civilians to come to their side at the moment. Because at this point in time, right, Buggy took over Doflamingo's weapons, like underground weapons manufacturing, right, and like trade. We saw that at the end of Dressrosa.
Mm-hmm.
So say all the people that Buggy backed then won their wars. Buggy has just single-handedly facilitated revolutions in like 30 countries, 40 countries. That kind of trumps the likes of, oh, I helped out Alabasta, or I helped out Skypiea. You know what I mean, though?
Yeah.
So it's like, Buggy's got a lot of those like secret moments in the story where he's just been like, he's been fucking getting everything that Luffy does, just differently. And at this point in time in the story, because the gag has gotten to the point where Buggy is a genuine emperor, and I know for the longest people were like, no, he's never going to go past a warlord. It was funny enough being a warlord, he'll never be an emperor. The fact that we have like gotten it get finessed to Buggy being an emperor now, it's like, I mean, how far is Oda going to take the joke? Because the next step is Pirate King or Pirate King adjacent.
Yep.
What does Oda care more about, in your opinion? Seriousness or gags at this point?
I mean, I think this is sort of where Buggy
Was
has been
coming
leading to.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think at this point in time, Buggy has two potential fights to happen. I definitely think one is definitely more likely than the other, right? But it's going to be Buggy at the moment doesn't have any poneglyphs, right? So if he's saying it's time for us to finally go and claim the One Piece, there is one bit of information that we really have to take into consideration, and that's he was also a part of Roger's crew, right?
Yep.
So he very well could know who the man on the all black ship is, if it's a Roger pirate, or the Roger pirates gave them the poneglyph.
Right.
So Buggy and Shanks could be the people right now that actually know where this man marked by fire is and who it is.
True.
I could see the Buggy pirates or the Cross Guild. If they go against Shanks, they could win or lose. It doesn't matter. It could go either way, or it could go like. How do you reckon Red Hair Pirates vs Cross Guild would go if when they meet each other, because Buggy knows he's weaker than Shanks, if Buggy calls a Davy back fight against Shanks?
I mean, I kind of feel honestly like Shanks's crew is more goofy in that sense, and they'd probably be better at a random Davy back fight. Like, I don't see Mihawk really participating in many in the past, you know?
Yeah.
But I
No,
can
look,
see Shanks being like, hell yeah, I'll
again,
Davy back fight
it-
you random pirate.
it doesn't matter who wins, but like that could be a possibility.
I honestly feel like Shanks would have a better chance of winning a Davy back fight than they would an actual fight.
Shanks's crew would. I don't think Shanks himself would.
What, Shanks v Buggy?
It would depends on what it would be in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, aren't Davy back fights very physical?
Usually,
The
yeah.
ones that we've seen in those filler episodes are like playing a sport and stuff like that.
But they choose the sports.
Yeah.
The challenger chooses the games. So Buggy could literally like call a Davy back fight, and if Shanks says no, Shanks gets branded as a coward for not doing it, right? Because that's how it works. And then Buggy just turns around and goes line taming, juggling, and being loved by your crew. Those are the games.
It's a really dumb concept, by the way, the Davy back fights.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Mentioned that before.
Well, people have said for the longest that it's like, well, I mean, people have been like, it's the only canon filler arc, right? Which,
Yeah.
you needed something goofy coming off of like two serious arcs, Alabasta and Sky Island, right? But at the same point in time, it's like it's never come back up again in the main story, only ever in fillers and stuff like that. And if anyone was gonna bring up a Davy back fight, low key, Buggy would be the perfect person for it.
Yeah, and Shanks, really.
Yeah, and because we also know that they actually like each other, they don't want to kill each other. It'd be a great way to like settle the score between them. And it also doesn't matter who would win, because whoever wins, the rest of their crew joins the crew. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It would just come down to what would be funnier: seeing Shanks have like Buggy force his way in as like his first mate and bring all this backing to the red hair pirates, or Buggy on some bullshit having beaten Shanks in a Davy back fight, and all of a sudden Shanks is just like a really mopey bitter bitch. Like you remember when we were first like introduced to the Davy back fight, and it was like the losers of it were just like heaps depressed and like, oh
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine, like, the gag of, like, Buggy's, like, laughing his ass off, just like, I did it, I'm gonna be Pirate King, and Shanks is just there, just like, how could I lose to him? And, like, you've even got Mihawk in the corner being like, how could you lose to him? And it's like, I didn't know we were gonna be fucking juggling. You know what I mean? Like, something stupid like that. Because the other alternative is Buggy and the Cross Guild coming across the Blackbeard pirates, in which case I think there would be a semi-tragic end to Buggy there. You know what I mean? Because it's kind of set up in the Odin flashback that Shanks and Buggy have conflict with Blackbeard, right? And you could view that as well, where it would be a really important tone shift to almost kill off the biggest source of comedic relief at the hands of Blackbeard in One Piece, only to have the only form of comedic relief left being Luffy as Sun God. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading.
Oh wait, tell you what like really solidified something in my mind this chapter is like when we saw that older pirate talking about like, oh yeah, Buggy's the best pirate ever to the old guy. The old guy was going up to collect his, like, it was random fodder pirate, but he was like old and tattered or whatever.
Giving him love.
I was like, man, this guy's like a veteran. You know what I mean? Like, he's been a seafarer forever. He's been a warrior in combat.
Wait.
Like, he's like a modern day Spartan. He's just like some random fodder pirate. He might have been a level 6 prisoner. But, like, he wasn't, like one of the Blackbeard ones that like slaughtered the whole.
Are you talking about the dude with the tattoo on his head?
Yeah, that dude with the tattoo on his head. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's just like one of the random fodder pirates there. He looks like such like a hardened criminal.
Dude.
Yeah, he's really seen some stuff. He's fought, he's killed, and it just like compare that against like Luffy started the series could take that guy out.
Yeah.
And compare that against the look of Luffy at the start of the series. And it's like some people, man, they go through the ringer and then they just like a dude.
Dude,
yeah,
okay.
They're just a dude.
I did a TikTok on this a while ago, and then I did another reply the other night, and it's really funny. I've been going back and forth with this other guy on TikTok. So he posed the question, would you rather be a pirate in One Piece, choose your devil fruit, choose your sensei, choose your fighting style, and choose your crew, or a ninja in Naruto, choose your parents, choose your sensei, and choose your choose something else. I can't remember what it was, right? And then it devolved into like, okay, no matter which one you choose, what would you rather live in, right? And it's like it's been really funny because I've been like going hard against it, where it's like all the One Piece fans coming in being like, yeah, One Piece would be amazing to live in. One Piece is great. Screw Naruto, they send kids to war and that. And I had to do like a full reply, and I felt bad about it, but I was just like, dude, fuck living in the world of One Piece. I would pick Naruto any day, because not only do you have a better chance at living a normal fucking life, you've got a better chance at being stronger. You like every one of your opportunities in Naruto is better than living in the world of One Piece. Naruto has standardized education. We haven't seen any form of standardized education in One Piece yet. Everyone that's smart is self-taught. We know though that there are so many child warrior like soldiers and stuff like that. Like Kaido, if you're strong as a kid, right? Kaido at 10 years old was being put on the front line of wars and being made to win wars on his own. He's a 10-year-old, right?
Yeah.
We see in the Doflamingo speech about like, you know, right and wrong and the winner is justice, right? We've seen that there are literal like 6-year-old kids on battlefields scavenging from dead bodies and like killing people. There are children soldiers everywhere in the world of One Piece. Like, there are 20 to 30 million land masses in One Piece that we know of, right? Like, we're told there are 20 to 30 million land masses, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's only 170 countries in the world government. If you're not part of those 170 countries, your life is shit. If you're not part of a Yonko crew, your life is shit. And we're not going to turn around and pretend like being a kid of Big Mom. Your life is going to be better, but you're also still a child soldier if you're part of the Big Mom family.
True. And it depends if Big Mom favors you or not. I mean, heck, look at Lola, man.
You're a kid in Wano, you're either starving or Kaido takes you on as a crew member. And as we know from SBS, Ulti and Page One were friends of Kaido. Like, their parent, their dad was friends of Kaido's. Kaido took them in, but even then, they understood immediately, if we don't get significantly stronger than everyone, we're just going to get killed off because we're a waste.
It was Ulti who swiped those devil fruits because she knew if they didn't get any kind of major thing, they were just going to get booted off eventually.
Yeah, they were just going to get killed or monopolized or whatever. So it's like, dude, SABO, you're a kid, you set sail and you go across the wrong ship and they just go kill them. Sunk to the bottom of the ocean. You draw the wrong race card and all of a sudden you're a fishman and you're imprisoned. Or you're treated like shit. Or worse, say you show a little bit of tenacity and then boom, you're a child Tenryubito slave. Like,
I mean, heck,
the world
in the Naruto world, I'd love to be able to like slam my palms on the ground and summon up a gigantic gate.
The worst thing in Naruto is that you are living in a village unaffiliated in between the borders of two countries where there's a war zone. And that's the entire Pain story. Pain's big whole, like, oh my god, the world is so bad and so bad, because he was just a product of war. And it's like, okay, sweet, that sucks. Welcome to a third of the population in One Piece. It's not a good place to live.
It was also a good chunk of, like, the Boruto anime as well, was like, all these people are just like, oh yeah, all these big villages keep warring with each other and they don't care about the small villages who have to deal with all the aftermath.
Dude.
That was like their whole evil backstory, and they were like, we're gonna like slaughter all of the evil villages because we had to deal with this.
Imagine you're 12 years old, 13 years old, right? You live in a peaceful village in the middle of nowhere, right? You're a farmer. All you do all day is you wake up, you go, you tend to your crops, make enough for you to eat, and you go to bed. Right? 10 islands over, all of a sudden, some uppity smartass with a good devil fruit, who just hit the lotto and got a good devil fruit, is like, I've got this awesome power, it's all gone to my head, I'm going to go take out Whitebeard, and Whitebeard punches and quakes at him, right? All of a sudden, an hour later, the resulting tsunami just drowns you.
Oh.
That's your day. You woke up, you cleaned the shit for your sheep. Like, you literally went into the barn, scooped shit, came out, and you saw a tsunami coming at you because two people you don't know on the other side of the planet fucked you over. The world of One Piece sucks to live in. Like, the whole, and there was so many One Piece fans doing, like, reply videos and that, being like, you know, One Piece is amazing, it would be so great to live in there, it would be awesome. And I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. You're not important enough to have Conqueror's Haki? And you're, like, dude, you're not out here training all that. Like, dude, I'm sorry. Unless you're someone with, like, the determination of the Mountain or Eddie Hall or a professional bodybuilder, right? There is zero chance you are going to be dedicated enough in that world, or lucky enough in that world, to join the Marines and live long enough to maybe understand that there's a thing called Haki in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the world's
Even then, it's like a thing that takes decades of training to get for most people.
yeah.
Yep.
Like, dude, the world suck. The world of One Piece sucks so bad that there is a blatant active slave trade. There is heavy taxation on every country that is part of the world government, and every country that's not part of the world government, we're literally told, could be wiped out at the request of any other country in the world government.
Mm-hmm.
Like, literally, Green Bull showing up, just being like, you're not part of the world government, so I don't care what happens to you. I'm going to starve you all, murder you all. I don't give a flying shit. I know I'm prejudiced. Screw you guys. You're not on my team. And it's like, you'd be lucky to be one of the people that lived at Wano. Or something like that. And that's sad. That's not a good thing. Like, dude, imagine just, like, you live at Grey Turnal. Like, you live at Luffy's hometown. You got one of three things that happens, right? You're either a bandit, which means you're a criminal, and if someone sees you, they will kill you and sell your body for money. You're a poor person that lives outside of the capital, in which case you literally live your entire life in trash. Scavenging for trash to eat. Or you're a part of the royal family. You hit the lotto. You like SABO. You live on the royal family and stuff like that, right? And if you say anything that's upsetting to the wrong person, the police system is so corrupt you can be arrested, executed, or sent to Impel Down with no trial. Imagine stealing a loaf of bread and spending the rest of your life on level 1 at Impel Down running through razors. That is some that is not a good thing, right? So it's really funny. Like, I did my reply to on that, and like the guy that like poses the question ended up like tagging a bunch of people in it, being like, "Do you guys want to change your answer? Because there's some fucking excellent points being made here. It's not a good place to live, dude." The best thing that's ever happened to this guy right now is that he killed a good person and has had to flee for his life. That's the average fucking citizen. Life is not jolly.
I think I'd rather learn how to make hand signs and summon jutsus, bro.
Dude, I would be throwing out hand signs like a deaf kid. Right? Every morning I'd be waking up just even if all I could do was just like make a small thing out of mud. The way if you had a little bit of chakra and you could just make an object out of something, the way you could just start up a shop and sell shit.
Yeah.
Like, and like being a ninja is optional. Everyone gets trained at the like Kid Ninja Academy, and then they get to choose: do you want to become a ninja or do you want to go into just like normal workforce? So it's like you get trained on how to do this shit, and then you get to choose: do you want to go fight to the death, like joining the army essentially, or do you just want to go start a flower shop?
Like, heck, bro, like, I'm just thinking about it. Like, my favorite summon and, like, my favorite jutsu pretty much has always been that Rashomon gate. Could you imagine just starting up your own toll business?
Yeah. Dude, you go to the Uzumaki Bridge and you just summon the gates and you just sit there all day and tax people. And what are they going to do? Knock the gate down? Who the fuck's strong enough to do that?
Unless you've got, like, actually, apparently, I don't know. People have claimed that it, like, the wiki claims that it's the strongest, like, defense in
defensive jutsu.
Naruto, but I've seen that thing busted down, like, pretty easily.
Oh, it is still the most defensive jutsu. But
it got dented pretty bad by a post time to Kiba.
The best defense is a good offense, though. So it may be the best defensive thing, but I'm sure a few Buddha punches from what's his name, Hashirama, are gonna break through those things pretty fucking easily.
That's true.
Also, just wanted to point out quickly, just before I forget about it, old dude that was starving his family coming from that poor country. This actually got name dropped as Pepe Kingdom. I'm wondering if this is actually where Baby 5 is actually originally from.
That would make sense.
Since we know that Baby 5 came from a country of poverty where everyone was starving to the point where and I only just realized this the other day. Her name's Baby 5 because she's the 5th baby, and they don't name them because they starve to death.
Yep. And to be fair, like the mom in that when the guy's looking at the photo, I mean, low key,
Looks
they
like the
kinda
girl
look
here.
like, yeah, they kind of look like Baby 5.
Yeah, they definitely do. So
They definitely.
my little headcanon is Baby 5 was originally born in Pepe Kingdom, and this dude also was. I reckon he came up and was like gonna kill T-Bone, and was like shaking and that, and like couldn't build up the courage to do it. And he's like, "I'm starving. I need to do this." And T-Bone just whips out his sword and commits seppuku.
Oh,
And he's
What a-
just like, "Please let me feed your family. If this is all I can do, thank you." Because like
I don't know. I don't know
I,
T-Bone doing something more, like he takes off his helmet and he's like, "Here, go give them." Like he takes off his bloody helmet or something. He's like, "Go ahead and give them to this as proof," or something like that. But if T-Bone's actually did that, that'll be just a sad L.
well, I mean,
I'd appreciate it definitely, but it'd be sad.
not the Marine I wanted to die. I'm not gonna lie.
No,
Like
not T-Bone.
I know this is gonna be bad. I actually like. I'm gonna get some flack for this. I like T-Bone more than I like Kobe. And that's not to say I don't like Kobe. It's just T-Bone was like a hidden gem of a character.
Just a little bit, yeah.
And
I mean, like, I really like his sword too.
oh, dude, the square cuts, the square projectile cuts that he did, chef kiss. I love them. They were just interesting. He had an interesting fighting style, interesting design. We don't get many knights in One Piece.
No, we don't. Ironically,
Yeah, so it's one of those things where it's just like I liked everything about him. And the funny thing is, I used to not care about him, and then I reread the manga and I like actually paid attention because like while I was on my big read through of it, I was like, I was noticing all the like bad people and like little slight like problems in the world and stuff like that, like really paying attention to it. And then I got to T-Bone and I was like, he's actually just such a good dude. Just breaks my heart. So unnecessary. Also, I don't know when he grew this mustache. Random as fuck.
Makes him a T.
Yo.
Cross the line.
Okay. I didn't even realize that, dude. He's got the paper thin mo. Ugh, such an odd design, dude. Looks like he
I need
belongs
to
to
head off,
Thriller.
guys.
Yeah, right. We should wrap the stream up there then. We've been going for almost 3 hours. I want to, as much as I love talking about One Piece, I want to go play some One Piece Survivor, some Star Wars Survivor. Okay. Before we wrap up, does anyone have any theories for next chapter? Next chapter is on break because this chapter was supposed to have a gap before this chapter, but it dropped early. So we're gonna have a break week next week to make up for this, essentially. Anyone? I want to say we pick up with Sabo talking about this, but also I think we just also cut away for a chapter to something else completely.
I definitely see that coming, man. Like whenever we get like a broad piece where it's always selected on the main character, or sorry, the main character of that certain branch, they always usually cut off.
We haven't seen Luffy in over a month of serialization.
Yeah, I think we cut back to Whole Cake now.
Egghead.
Whole Cake, what?
I knew what you were on there.
Got two names.
Meanwhile,
So
Big Mom.
all the same.
So okay, we cut back to Egghead for a little bit, and then I reckon we cut back to Egghead for a chapter, and then like the chapter after, because they tend to like leave a cliffhanger, go away for a week, and then come back at the moment. That seems to be the routine they do. Because they had the yeah. I'm gonna make a prediction. We're just gonna go have the whole next chapter at Egghead, maybe with the exception of who haven't we seen yet? We might see Garp and Suru, actually, in a small scene, decide to go help Garp. I could see them coming in as backup for Garp, and if Blackbeard ends up pulling up, so if Garp versus Aokiji lasts a bit longer, and then it ends with Garp maybe not beating Aokiji, but like potentially almost achieving his goal, and Blackbeard shows up and it's like, oh my god, everything's gonna be doom and gloom for Garp. I could see like an 11th hour save with Suru's like crew showing up and Sengoku showing up with her, and like the force is big enough that they tell Garp to retreat, allowing Garp to retreat. So like like Sengoku holding Garp back, being like, "You got what you came for. Just fucking don't start shit." With Blackbeard being there, being like, you know, if you guys leave, don't destroy our town, sort of thing. Otherwise, I'm gonna sink you, sort of shit. Where they're both being like held back from fighting, almost. You know what I mean? I don't know. Any predictions? Any theories from either of you guys?
No, I'm thinking at least the first half being on Egghead, and then if we are going to come back here, maybe in the second half.
Yeah.
If we do end up coming back to this plot with Sabo and everything like that, I bet you anything it's going to be attached to probably something during Egghead or something like that.
Or alternatively, we could cut to Im. Have an Im reveal now.
Yeah, sitting in his chair. Yeah, could you imagine that, like the transition of Sabo sitting like that, and then Im sitting like this, talking with the other 5 stars?
All right, I gotta head, guys.
All right, no worries. We'll wrap the stream up there. Thank you both for coming through. It is really appreciated. Until the next chapter or until the next video, I know you posed a question in the Discord the other day, Kuma. I can't remember what it was though. It was.
No, yeah, we were talking of the comparison between the old generation and the new generation.
So, considering we have a break next weekend, we may have a stream where we talk about that, because a lot of like we already went through it a fair bit, but a lot of those points can be easily like lost in huge scrolls of text as opposed to just talking it out. So
yes,
that'd make for an interesting conversation, I think, as well. Because
I would love that, to be honest.
It is also super subjective. So next week, I think we'll do a stream talking about, has the current generation in the world of One Piece surpassed the previous generation or any of the previous generations in terms of narrative, expectations, what we're told, strength, the whole shebang. You know, from the likes of Roger to the likes of Shanks, all the way down to Luffy.
Yep, it's all good. We can easily break it up into like smaller segments too. Like we can talk about like quote unquote like Rox's era, and then just, well, I guess I don't know. We'll have to work out the deets.
Yeah. We'll either way, we'll do a stream next week during the break, just to, you know, talk some One Piece, so that way we don't have a big looming hole in our week.
Yeah.
That being said, say goodbye, Kuma. Eggs has already bailed off. It's alright. I know he's had something on tonight, which is fair enough. That's why we did the stream a bit earlier.
Yep.
Until the next chapter of One Piece, or until the next video, Mind Your Watch, whatever it is you're here for, thank you for coming through and sticking through this long. Nothing but love, nothing but respect. Have a good day. Say goodbye, Kuma.
Bye.
Goodbye, and have a damn good one. Goodbye.